I grew up with Su Jinsi, and we got married right after college. 10 years into our marriage, I still hadn't had a child. I felt deeply guilty towards him and was willing to quit my job to focus on trying to conceive, but my husband had already been having an affair with the daughter of our housekeeper. They sold off my family's property and schemed to kill my parents. They made me infertile, locked me in the basement, and watched as their happy family of 4 lived together, leaving me to die with resentment. When I opened my eyes again, I was back in my senior year of high school. 1. I was betrothed to Su Jinsi from a young age. The year I graduated from middle school, Su's family company went bankrupt due to poor management by Su's father. Unable to bear the massive debt, Su's father chose to jump to his death. My parents, taking pity on Su Jinsi and his widowed mother, paid off their debts and covered all their living expenses. In other words, my family supports them. After graduating from university, Su Jinsi joined my family's company and married me. My parents meant well, but they raised 2 ungrateful people. They blame my parents for not paying off their debts before Su's father jumped to his death. They conspired with outsiders to kill my parents. Su Jinsi also caused me to be infertile for life and used my guilt to take over my family's company. By the time I discovered all this, Su Jinsi and his lover already had 2 children. That day, my countless attempts at in vitro fertilization finally succeeded, and I became pregnant. I excitedly ran downstairs, eager to share the joy with my beloved husband. That day was also the day our family company declared bankruptcy. Su Jinsi finally no longer had to deal with me and brought his 2 children before me. I stared at the happy family of 4, suddenly lost for words. Standing dumbstruck at the top of the stairs, the 2 children look so much like Su Jinsi that I can't even fool myself. Su Jinsi, who are they? My wife and sons. Tian, heavily pregnant, walked slowly over to me. She is the daughter of our nanny. What's so precious about being a pampered young lady? Your wealth is mine, and the man you love is in love with me. She snatched the report from my hand. Wow, you're pregnant. After taking so many birth control pills, how could you still get pregnant? Birth control pills, I've never taken any. I suddenly remembered the vitamins Su Jinsi had prepared for me, and how he often reminded me to take them. I turned to confront him, but Tian pushed me down the stairs. I instinctively protected my stomach. To no avail, a sharp pain in my abdomen struck, and I struggled to get Su Jinsi to take me to the hospital. I saw Su Jinsi covering his 2 sons' eyes, looking at me as if I were trash. Help me. No one paid any attention to me. I felt the blood slowly seeping out from between my legs, and my body grew colder, on the brink of death. I heard Su Jinsi's voice, finally dead. If she had been in the car with those 2 old fools, none of this would have happened. 2. Zhao, this is Teacher Shi's class. How dare you zone out? I sat in the classroom of my senior year, as if waking from a deep dream. I returned to my senior year of high school. Tian, hearing that name again, I clenched my pen tightly. Tian stood up from her seat with her high ponytail, confidently answering the teacher's question. I slightly turned my head and saw Su Jinsi through Tian's arm, and the adoration in his eyes. It turns out that Su Jinsi had already fallen for Tian by this time. Su Jinsi and Tian consistently ranked 1st and 2nd in the grade. In their previous life, they both got into the same university. I thought Su Jinsi fell in love during college, but it was actually earlier. In fact, I was the top student in our grade at the beginning of high school. The kind of first place that leaves the second place far behind by several dozen points. Su Jinsi always told me that I was constantly outperforming him academically, which made him feel anxious. He said that with our family's resources, whether or not I went to college wouldn't make much of a difference. He said that no matter how well or poorly I did in school, his feelings for me wouldn't change, and encouraged me to enjoy life instead of spending all my time on homework. Gradually, I was influenced by him and only managed to get into a regular undergraduate program in the college entrance exam. He managed to get into the top university in the country with Tian. After marriage, my bachelor's degree became the reason Mrs. Su looked down on me. With my ordinary bachelor's degree, I was not good enough for her son who graduated from a top university. Looking back now, I must have either had water in my brain or been kicked by a donkey. Why would I devote my entire life to a man, especially one who relies on my family for support? 3. During the break, I buried myself in a book. Although I didn't neglect my studies later on, I wasn't as diligent as I was in my first year of high school. in this new life, I will catch up on everything I've fallen behind on. My deskmate poked my arm. Sujinsi has arrived. Zhao Zhao, this is for you. Just like in my previous life, a star bottle. I noticed the reluctance hidden in Sujinsi's eyes. Thank you, as if handing it over to me completed his task, he turned and left without a moment's hesitation. I casually placed the star jar on the table and continued reading my book. My deskmate stared at the star jar for a while, then poked me. Zhao Zhao, it's this star jar, what's wrong? I feel like I've seen this somewhere before with Tian Tian. I nodded, still pretending to read, but I was listening intently and keeping an eye on Tian Tian out of the corner of my eye. I saw Tian Tian looking shyly as Sujinsi explained something to her. I also overheard what Sujinsi's so-called friends were saying. Why is Xie Zhao Zhao so calm today? Exactly, Xie gave her something. Personally, shouldn't she be crying with excitement? Could it be that she knows it's something Tianjia didn't want? Giving her something our Tianjia didn't want is already giving her face. Okay. I recalled that when I received this star bottle in my previous life. It was indeed the reaction those few people had been expecting. Excited, I even cried. It was one of the few gifts Sujinsi had given me. That same day, I posted about it on all my social media accounts. My deskmate said the same thing, but I flew into a rage. I looked at my deskmate with guilt in my eyes. With baby fat still on her face, she looked horrified, crossed her arms, and said, I'm straight, sis. Atmosphere killer. I continued reading my book. After school, I couldn't wait to go home. I miss my parents. I also need to tell them that I'm calling off the engagement. The Su family are nothing but ungrateful wolves. I rushed into the house, but my parents were nowhere to be seen. I asked the butler, where are my parents? Miss, you forgot. The master and mistress are abroad. They won't be back for another half a month. Yes, I forgot. I realized that too. My father has always been loyal and righteous, and he was a close friend of Mr. Su. That's why he paid off Su's debts after Mr. Su passed away. When I suddenly proposed to cancel the engagement, my father would only think I was being childish and would definitely not agree. But should Sujinsi and his mother just enjoy these 2 weeks comfortably, I'm not willing to let it go. Has the Su family's living expenses been paid? The butler said. The master gave 3 months' worth of living expenses before leaving, and only 1.5 months have passed. The housekeeper thought I wanted to provide living expenses for the Su family. How could that be? Can you freeze that card? You mean the one for the Su family? I nodded without hesitation. That card belongs to the gentleman, and he needs to handle it. I can't freeze the card, but I can do some accounting. Ever since I graduated from middle school, the Su family has been supported by the Xie family. Spit out every penny you've swallowed. Compile all the payment records to the Su family over the years for me. I want to see how much the Su family owes us. When my father offered to pay for Sujinsi's education, Sujinsi was adamant, saying he would repay it once he started working. The steward's face showed confusion, but the smile was hard to hide. I want to give myself a hard slap. Even the butler could see that the Su family was taking advantage of my family. How blind was I in my previous life? I received the bill during dinner. 30,000 in expenses in a single month. The butler nodded calmly in response to my shocked expression. I knew my family was covering the Su family's expenses, but I didn't realize their spending was almost as much as ours, living in a villa. The master is a man of loyalty, and since Master Su is the young lady's fiancé, these expenses mean nothing to him, so he didn't bother to keep track. I ate with a cold expression. Now that I'm not blind, do you think I'll let someone treat my home like an ATM? Under the teacher's suggestion, our class formed study groups. I, Sujinsi, Tian Tian, and 3 other classmates are in one group. On the weekend, we met at the city park to study together and discuss topics. Sujinsi and Tian Tian arrived together. I am so engrossed in studying that I didn't even notice them walking together. Zhao Zhao, the question you asked last week stumped Sujinsi, and he came to discuss it with me. I glanced at Tian Tian, who was trying to make conversation, and noticed her unmistakable smugness and the necklace around her neck. It was a luxury brand's latest seasonal release, and a limited edition at that. Tian Tian is nothing more than the daughter of my family's nanny. She was able to attend the same high school as me only because my parents wanted me to have a companion, and my family paid for her tuition. Where did she get the money to buy luxury items? I was too naive, thinking that if she was influenced by Sujinsi, I could let her off the hook. Now it's clear, I should have never let her off in the first place. She's not getting away, is that so? I retorted. But that question wasn't hard, I already know it. Is that so? Tian's smile was a bit stiff. Sujinsi accused me, you already know it, yet you still come to waste my time. My time is precious, you know, I just learned it. I looked innocent, pointing at the exercise book spread out on the stone table and Shinmu sitting on the stone bench. Seeing Sujinsi's expression like he had just eaten something disgusting, I was delighted. Sujinsi pulled Tian to sit on the other side. I sat down, eagerly continuing to bombard Shin, the academic genius, with questions. Only after bribing him with a month's worth of breakfast did he agree to tutor me. This guy is a true genius, he can sleep through class and still rank 10th. Sujinsi and Tian sit together, a perfect match of talent and beauty. He's explaining a problem to someone, occasionally glancing at me. In his eyes, I should be hopelessly in love with him, and when he's angry, I should be eager to throw money at him to make it up. I'm going to see him, but not to throw money around. At the end of this group study session, I sincerely expressed my gratitude to Shinmu. Then, Sujinsi, I need to talk to you. I didn't notice Shinmu's face, which had been somewhat cheerful, suddenly darken. Sujinsi's face showed a look of I knew it, and he said reluctantly, what is it? I glanced at Tian and a few other classmates, smiling with a hint of mischief. I don't mind, but you might be a bit concerned. Are you sure you want to do this here? Sujinsi pulled me aside. I handed him the bill from my pocket. You were the one who said it yourself, that the money you used from my family was a loan, and since you're an adult now, here's the bill, remember to pay it back. Sujinsi didn't even glance at the bill, looking as if his mother had just died, and said, you want me to pay you back? Chapter 2 Paid Content. Chapter 2 Paid Content. What? Paying debts is only right, you said it yourself. It was a loan, so now you're playing both sides. Sujinsi was furious. Of course I'll pay you back, but don't regret it. He firmly believed that I deeply loved him. He turned and left. Seeing Sujinsi's bad complexion, a few classmates didn't dare to speak. Shinmu raised an eyebrow with evident interest. Zhao, what are you trying to provoke Sujinsi for? Tian jumped out. I looked at her coldly and said, I only found out today that my family's nanny's daughter can afford a high-end limited edition necklace. As soon as these words were spoken, I heard a few classmates gasp. Tian had always cultivated an image of a wealthy young lady at school, and with her refined manners, her classmates were convinced without a doubt. Now, the facade is shattered, I earnestly advised. Girls, don't get caught up in competition. Material enjoyment is important, but more importantly, learn to care for your parents. My household staff are well paid, and your tuition is covered by my family. But that doesn't mean it's easy for your mom to save some money. Several classmates instantly thought of the cosmetics and luxury items Tian casually showed off. I patted my backpack and left without a trace. I'm really looking forward to Monday. 6. As expected, Tian's story has spread throughout the class. As soon as I arrived at class, my deskmate stopped me. Zhao, is Tian, the great goddess, really the daughter of your family's nanny? Yes, I replied casually. The classmates around didn't gather, but they all perked up their ears. In an instant, whispers and murmurs filled the air. Sujinsi came to me during the big break to defend the honor of his beloved. Zhao, how could you be so vicious? I kept my cool, but my deskmate didn't. She slammed her hand on the table and stood up. Sujinsi, what do you mean? What has Zhao done for you to say that about her? Tian grabbed Sujinsi's arm. Jinsi, I'm fine. Don't make things difficult for Zhao. Tian. Sujinsi glared at Tian with frustration, feeling she could never live up to expectations. I chuckled. This couple is truly a perfect match. It really could be considered that I intervened in my previous life. Sujinsi pointed at me. What are you laughing at? It's my fault, all my fault. Helping my family's nanny, paying for her daughter's tuition, that's my family's fault. Paying off your family's debts. Zhao. Seeing that I was about to reveal the Su family's affairs, Sujinsi quickly interrupted me. He pulled Tian back to their seats, comforting her. Tian, I'll make it up to you later. My deskmate seemed quite smug. What's going on here? After insulting someone, the top student doesn't even know how to apologize, huh? Sujinsi's hand hanging by his side clenched and then relaxed. 7. After school, before I could even reach my family's car, I was stopped by a richly dressed woman. watching those walking coins. My heart aches. That's all my family's money, why give it to ungrateful people? This person is Sue's mother, Xia Zhao Zhao. The money was given by your family, now you want it back. Sue's mother's fiery expression gradually calmed down under my cold gaze. Zhao Zhao, to be honest, Auntie has always liked girls like Tian Tian. Auntie wants a girl like Tian Tian to be her daughter-in-law. It's not that Auntie doesn't like you, but if you really want to marry Jean Ci, you should learn from Tian Tian. A girl should be more gentle and soft-tempered. I gave a cold smile, about to speak, when Su Jinxi arrived and stood by my side. Mom, why are you looking for Zhao Zhao? I've already said I'll repay it. Besides, this is between Zhao Zhao and me. Sue's mother frowned. Anyway, my stance is clear. If she remains like this, I absolutely won't allow her to enter our Su family's door. Su Jinxi looked at me again with a troubled expression. Zhao Zhao, I know I've been neglecting you lately, and you're upset, but even if you're acting out, you need to keep it in check. My dad is gone, and now I only have my mom. Can you listen to her too, so I don't have to feel stuck in the middle? I'll pretend this never happened. I'll handle my mom's side of things. But there can't be a next time. I swatted Su Jinxi's hand off my shoulder. Who do you think you are? Even if I'm not picky, I wouldn't go out of my way to dive into a dumpster. Su Jinxi's face suddenly became quite expressive. My time is precious, and I don't want to waste it on this mother and son. Wouldn't it be better to spend that time doing more practice problems? As soon as I got in the car, I told the driver to start driving. Sue's mother at the school gate said to Su Jinxi, Jinxi, have you been too nice to her lately? Cool down on her, and let's see how she still struts around. Su Jinxi nodded. 8. After that, Su Jinxi and Tian Tian stopped bothering me, and my days became much happier. Besides, I have to deal with a man of unpredictable moods. These breakfasts have given me a deep understanding of the horror of a picky man. He can even tell if the soybeans used for making soy milk have their skins on or not. It's really terrifying. He refuses to eat this and that. I almost want to force-feed him breakfast. On this day, I once again carried the food box into the classroom. Young master, will you grace us with your presence today by choosing between pan-fried buns or soup dumplings? Opening the food box, it was filled with a variety of exquisite breakfast items. After Shenmu finished eating, there was still a lot left. I didn't mind, so I carried the food box back to my seat and shared it with my desk mate and those around us. Smells amazing. It's so fragrant. I realized how adorable my classmates are. They're all food lovers. During the break, Shenmu came to my desk with the question I asked him. Listen carefully. I nodded. Shenmu began to speak. Shenmu is really smart. Any topic can be explained to me in a simple and understandable way, unlike Su Jinxi who just throws a bunch of fancy theorems and formulas at me. I was listening to the lecture attentively, and then some trouble popped up. Jinxi, you're so smart these days. Tian Tian has changed her address to Su Jinxi from calling him by his full name to just Jinxi. Well, after all, I'm the first. I pouted. Shenmu knocked a sharp rap on my head. Pay attention. Alright, the meticulous second young master Shen can't stand me zoning out. 9. As we worked on the topic together, Shenmu and I grew closer, and Su Jinxi and Tian Tian also grew closer. I treated those two scumbags as if they didn't exist and patiently waited for my parents to return. But Su Jinxi couldn't keep his cool. Another week of group study, this time with 3 groups together, involving half the class. As soon as I arrived, Su Jinxi pulled me aside. Zhao Zhao. Su Jinxi looked at me with deep affection. I can't help but feel nauseous, and I can't help but want to kick my past self to death. If Su Jinxi was in front of his past self now, he would be so moved. Zhao Zhao, I know you're deliberately picking a fight with me because you're upset about me getting close to Tian Tian. But you need to control your temper. If you keep this up with Shenmu, I won't be able to hold my mother back. You know, my mom has never liked you. I laughed nonchalantly. If she doesn't like me, so what, does it matter? My indifferent attitude completely took Su Jinxi by surprise. He was getting flustered, and the volume he had been holding back couldn't help but rise. Xia Zhao Zhao, don't think that just because we have an engagement, I'll definitely marry you. The wife I want to marry must be gentle, filial to her parents, and an excellent cook, like Tian Tian. If you keep this up, we'll cancel the engagement. These words were heard by all the students present, but Su Jinxi still hadn't realized it. I retorted loudly, did I beg to marry you? This engagement was something your father, Uncle Su, insisted on back then. Because of this engagement, My family paid off tens of millions in debt for yours, and we provided you and your mother with hundreds of thousands in living expenses every month. The engagement is to be broken, and the money is to be returned. Even if I, Xie Zhaozhao, were to look for a son-in-law, there would be plenty of people lining up for me to choose from. What are you being so arrogant about, you good-for-nothing who relies on my family to survive? Is it because your sycophants are constantly fawning over you that you've lost all sense of reality? I slapped Su Jinxi and then went to get my backpack. My backpack was in my deskmate's arms. Through my deskmate's eyes, all I saw was shock upon shock. I leaned in close to my deskmate's ear and whispered, exciting, isn't it? Stimulating. I attended a prestigious school, but my class wasn't. Most of the students in my class came from different working-class families and were unaware of the Su family's past. Su Jinxi kept his family's affairs well hidden, and most of his classmates assumed he was a wealthy young man. Now, I'd blown my cover again. Su Jinxi turned around and only then realized what was happening, his face turning red in an instant. I smirked mischievously, walked over to Shenmu, and said, I have something to do today, so I'll take my leave first. Can you see now? She said. I'll take it as a compliment, I guess. Hee. I left, stepping on a rainbow cloud. 10. Standing at the door of my home, I pinched my thigh hard, which hurt so much that tears welled up in my eyes instantly. Uncle, do I look pitiful like this? I stared at the butler with misty eyes. Pitiful? I am very satisfied. Tears streamed down my face when I saw the two people sitting on the sofa. My parents haven't been schemed against by that ungrateful wretch. Oh dear, my Zhaozhao, what's wrong? Mom hugged me close with a look of heartache. I remained silent, crying non-stop. Dad gave the butler a meaningful glance. After I finished crying, I exaggeratedly recounted how Su Jinxi and Tian had been flirting with each other recently. Su's mother said she didn't like me and wanted me to learn how to be charming and obedient from Tian. Hearing this, my parents were furious. I am their cherished daughter, and my temper is a result of their pampering. How could my parents bear to see their beloved daughter, who they raised with so much care, be belittled to nothing? I felt it was about time, so I looked up, my face wet with tears. Dad, Mom, I want to call off the engagement, then call it off. My father agreed immediately and had someone summon the Su family. Father had long been displeased with the Su family mother and son. He initially said he would cover Su Jinxi's tuition, but over time, he ended up supporting the Su family mother and son, which wasn't a big deal. But what on earth does Su's mother buy all day? Just a bunch of flashy but useless items. Anyone with a shred of shame wouldn't flaunt someone else's money. His friendship with Mr. Su has gradually faded over the years. 11. Su Jinxi came with the mark of a slap on his face. As soon as he arrived, he put on an act of being resigned to his fate. Uncle Xia. This slap, Zhaozhao didn't mean it. Their parents' expressions grew even darker. I've already said it, I only hit him because I was so furious. I also said that I was terrified after hitting someone. It was the first time I had ever hit anyone, and I was really scared. Su's mother also seemed to be demanding an explanation from my parents. She sat on the sofa and said, this matter, you deal with it. My mother suppressed her anger, and I gently patted her hand. My mother looked at me with relief. Father was really furious. What do you want to do about it? Mother Su took the ladder and climbed up. Honestly, I really don't dare to have a daughter-in-law like Zhaozhao. Father didn't want her to climb anymore, afraid it would really make him sick. Let's call off the engagement. Okay, Su's mother smiled and responded, then realized what her father had said. What did you say? No, we can't cancel it. It seems Su's mother still knows what her current life depends on. Okay. Su Jinxi declared firmly, then let's annul the engagement. Su's mother stared wide-eyed at her son. Su Jinxi gave his mother a reassuring look. I know Su Jinxi still believes I deeply love him, but in my previous life, I didn't really love him that much either. My feelings for him were mostly due to our childhood engagement, where we knew each other well and it just seemed right. After marriage, it was more a sense of guilt for not being able to give him a child. The father instructed the butler to retrieve the token of exchange from back then and return it to the Su family and their son. As for the token we gave to the Su family, it's on Mrs. Su's wrist. How shameless, wearing the token of engagement for her own son. The engagement is officially called off. The money I gave you before today, I consider it thrown away. Don't even think about getting another penny from me, butler. Dismiss the Tian family mother and daughter as well, and send them away. Father issued a thunderous order. Su Jinsi left and said to me, Zhao Zhao, I'm giving you one last chance. If you apologize to me within 3 days, the engagement still stands. Mother threw a teacup at him. I'm really giving you face. Only after the Su family and the Tian family left did I realize why my father had also driven the Tian family away. Someone unknown sent my father an email containing records of Su Jinsi's expenses for Tian Tian. Tian Tian knew full well that I had an engagement with Su Jinsi. 12. Su Jinsi brought the Tian family mother and daughter to live at his house. Since Su and his son still had the living expenses my father provided, the 4 of them lived quite comfortably. Tian Tian even directly gave herself to Su Jinsi. After gaining Tian Tian's body, Su Jinsi became even more loving and protective of the gentle yet strong Tian Tian. They were bad enough at home, but they also came to class and got physical right in front of me. I really didn't want to see, but being in the same class, I couldn't help but catch glimpses several times of Tian Tian sitting on Su Jinsi's lap, the 2 of them in an extremely intimate embrace. I quickly looked away, feeling sorry for my poor eyes, having to endure such torment. That's disgusting. 13. My father gives me a generous allowance, but it's quickly spent by Su's mother's extravagant spending. And Su Jinsi also has to buy things to please Tian Tian. The money was gone in no time. What should I do when I'm out of money? Aunt Su has come to me again, the sucker. Still at the school gate, Tian Tian smiled and linked arms with Aunt Su, but Aunt Su walked straight towards me. Aunt Su said with some reluctance, Zhao Zhao, I know you like Jean Ci, and I'm not the kind of person who would break up a loving couple. Auntie still wants you to be her daughter-in-law. But Jean Ci is still mad at you. You'll have to make it up to her yourself. Make it up to her. How? Throw money at it, I sneered. Tian Tian panicked. She had already given herself to Su Jinsi. What would happen to her if Su Jinsi married me? Tian Tian said, no way. Su's mother gave her a contemptuous glance. Who do you think you are? I'm pregnant. This is right in front of the school gate. The mention of pregnancy immediately drew attention, coincidentally. The principal was on duty this week and happened to be at the school gate. Tian Tian panicked the moment she saw the principal. She was still making excuses when the principal took her to the hospital for a checkup. Throughout the entire incident, I never saw Su Jinsi. 14. It wasn't until I heard the news of Tian Tian's withdrawal from school that I saw Su Jinsi again in class. He had changed, looking just like he did in my previous life before I died. Zhao Zhao, even without your Xia family in this life, I can still achieve the status I had in my previous life. Previous life? Did he also reincarnate? We've been over each other for a long time. I shrugged indifferently, seeing me standing with Su Jinsi. Shenmu called out unhappily, Xia Zhao Zhao, are you going to solve that problem or not? I'm coming. I'm coming. I scurried over obsequiously. This old man is moody and hard to please, but I'm counting on him to help me with my problems. 15. The college entrance exam is approaching, and all the students in the class are studying extra hard, making the most of every minute. Su Jinsi kept taking frequent leaves, claiming he had to take care of Tian Tian, who was pregnant. After reminding him a few times, the homeroom teacher stopped bothering with him. I know why he's acting this way. He's also been reborn and has already gone through the college entrance exam once. In his previous life, he got into the top university in the country and felt invincible, thinking he could easily score high with his reincarnation advantage. He naturally didn't put much effort into the college entrance exam, but when the exam results came out, he scored even worse than I did in my previous life. This time, 2 people made it into that top university, me and Shenmu. For some reason, Shenmu, who had gone abroad after the college entrance exam in his previous life, stayed in the country to attend university this time. Su Jinsi couldn't accept his results, and after rechecking them with no change, he contacted the media, claiming his scores had been maliciously replaced. Having one's college entrance exam scores replaced is a huge news story. The situation quickly escalated online, with netizens voicing their support for the underprivileged student. The school issued an announcement, posting Su Jinsi's 3-year high school grades and his frequent absence notes from the second semester of his senior year. The Education Bureau responded promptly, releasing Su Jinsi's answer sheets. Su Jinsi's grades were not tampered with. After this incident, Su Jinsi's future was ruined. Tian Tian had an abortion that summer and started dating a playboy who had ruthlessly kicked Su Jinsi while he was down. Upon hearing the news, Su Jinsi became like a walking corpse. Tian Tian didn't enjoy it for long before the playboy got bored and kicked her to the curb. Tian Tian had no choice, she only had a high school education. She blamed Su Jinsi for her inability to take the college entrance exam. She returned to Su Jinsi's side, though she was no longer the gentle and obedient girl she once was. The lives of this pair of scoundrels and vixens were bound together for the rest of their days. 16. I majored in business administration in college and gradually took over the company with my father's help after graduation. Everything was moving in a positive direction. As for Shenmu, he completely lost his aloof demeanor from high school during college and followed me around all the time. He chased me for 4 years, and after graduating from university, he even followed me into my family's company. His explanation was that his family had his older brother to take care of things, so he wasn't needed. He said that as long as I agreed to his pursuit, he wouldn't mind being a son-in-law in my family. I don't know how many mental adjustments I made as Shen's parents went from being furious and embarrassed when they first heard this to becoming indifferent later. In the 7th year of his pursuit, I proposed to Shenmu. Shenmu refused. He said I didn't give him face. I've already married into your family. Can't I be the one to propose? I said yes. He proposed to me one summer in the classroom where we first met. After we got married, we had 2 lovely children. This life, I am very happy. Epilogue. After Xie Zhaozhao's death, Su Jinsi took possession of all Xie family's assets legally and lived a life of indulgence with Tian Tian. One day, after their intimate moment, Su Jinsi held Tian Tian tightly and fell into a deep sleep. When he opened his eyes again, he was back in his senior year of high school. This senior year of high school is different from the one he actually experienced. For some reason, his engagement to Xie Zhaozhao had been dissolved, and Tian Tian had already been living in his house. From the snippets of conversation, he learned that Xie Zhaozhao suddenly fell out of love with him and broke off the engagement, a rebirth like in the novels. Su Jinsi racked his brains and could only come up with this one possibility. He guessed that Xie Zhaozhao had been reborn. But he wasn't worried because he had been reborn too. He was extremely confident. If he was a reborn person, what was Xie Zhaozhao to him? If he could manipulate her in one life, he could do it in 2. He believed that even without the Xie family, he could still be wealthy as he was in his previous life. In Su Jinsi's eyes, Tian Tian was his wife, so after returning to high school, he had a relationship with the high school Tian Tian and got her pregnant. Later, when Tian Tian's pregnancy was discovered by the school, he was completely unruffled. He would be rich in the future. He had been reborn, considering himself a genius, and spent all day in bed with Tian Tian under the guise of taking care of a pregnant woman. But the results of the college entrance exam came as a surprise to him. He firmly believed he was a genius, that his grades had been swapped, and he contacted the media, leveraging public opinion to his advantage, but that was the outcome. And he performed even worse than Xie Zhaozhao in his previous life. After that, Su Jinsi was completely caught off guard when his young wife not only beat their child but also ran off with someone who had once humiliated him. He loved Tian Tian, and in the end, she returned to his side, but he could no longer treat her the way he used to. Yet, Xie Zhaozhao thrived more than ever after leaving him. What infuriated him the most was that Xie Zhaozhao had actually married someone else. In Su Jinsi's eyes, Xie Zhaozhao was his woman. His woman actually cheated on him. What's even more infuriating is that Xie Zhaozhao and Shenmu even had a child. Su Jinsi was literally driven to death by anger, but the next second, he opened his eyes, shot up from the bed, and gasped for breath. Tian Tian beside him woke up from the noise he made, her eyes hazy as she looked at him. He looked around. This was their home, the grand villa they had designed and decorated themselves. Was that rebirth just a dream? If so, it felt a bit too real. Su Jinsi's heart was still racing. It's a dream, as long as it's a dream. For some reason, from then on, whenever he saw Tian Tian, an inexplicable anger would rise in his heart, making him extremely irritable. Su Jinsi has changed. He doesn't know that he's just trying to pick a fight with Dream Xie Zhaozhao, still to get revenge on Tian Tian from Dreamland. He began having child after child, disregarding Tian Tian's wishes. While Tian Tian was pregnant, he had other women bear children outside. When Tian Tian's health was damaged and she couldn't have more children, he kept all the outside women at home to bear children. Finally, his grandson and his youngest son were born on the same day. Su Jinsi looked at all this and gave a pale smile. He had a lot of money and many children. Yet, he still felt an endless void in his heart. When Su Jinsi finally handed over power to his eldest son, his daughter-in-law pushed him down the stairs. His eldest son, much like how he had coldly watched Xie Zhaozhao being pushed down, coldly watched himself. Tian Tian came out and discovered the situation, only to be pushed down by the daughter-in-law as well. Su Jinsi and Tian Tian died. The eldest son of Su Jinsi hated his father for having so many children who would compete for the family inheritance. And he didn't even set up a tomb for Su Jinsi and Tian Tian, they just randomly found a hill and dumped them there. The lives of Su Jinsi and Tian Tian came to an end. Story 2. In my past life, my sister locked me in the toilet and stole my chance to be adopted by the richest couple. In this life, driven by her infatuation, she actually pushed me in front of the richest man, saying, "Adopt my sister. She's more obedient and well-behaved than me." After learning that I was adopted by the richest couple, my sister laughed behind the door. Those cold-blooded freaks in the Fu family will torture her to death sooner or later. But she didn't know that I had also been reborn. Later, my sister was adopted by a poor family and became childhood neighbors with the gangster she liked, as she wished. The only thing that didn't go as my sister hoped was that instead of being tortured to death by the so-called freaks in the Fu family, I was doted on by them like a precious treasure. 5 years later, I saw my sister, Xue Qin, again on the school rooftop. She was dressed in high-end designer clothes, exuding an air of nobility. As for me, I wore a tattered, dirty old apron that reeked of fish and blood, looking extremely wretched. At that moment, Xue Qin was threatening to commit suicide to protest against her wealthy adoptive parents because of the gangster she liked, Xing Yan. "Why did you call the police and arrest Xing Yan? I've told you, I had sex with him voluntarily, he didn't drug me. What right do you have to make decisions for me? He's been expelled from school and has a criminal record. You've ruined his whole life. Since you're trying to drive him to death, I'll go to hell with him. Are you satisfied now?" As she cried, Xue Qin tore up the family photo in her hand and threw the pieces off the rooftop, watching them float away in the wind. "You people in the Fu family are all cold-blooded and heartless freaks. You're driving me to my death." Mrs. Fu looked at Xue Qin, who was standing on the edge of the rooftop. With great anxiety, she held my hand tightly and said tearfully, "Please, persuade your sister. If anything happens to her, I won't be able to live either. She's my only daughter. The police have already arrested that gangster. What else can we do?" Afraid that I might refuse, Mr. Fu quickly added, "As long as you can save my daughter, the Fu group will cover all your tuition and living expenses from now on. Plus, we'll give you a 10 million yuan reward. You won't have to work part-time to earn your tuition anymore." While they were talking to me, a group of policemen came up to the rooftop from the side door and slowly approached Xue Qin, forming a semi-circle around her. Seeing the police, Xue Qin became even more agitated. She stepped back and screamed, "You bad guys who arrested Xing Yan, don't come near me. If you come any closer, I'll jump off. Let Xing Yan out right now, or I'll do it." As Xue Qin's situation grew more and more dangerous, her brother, Fu Xingji, turned deathly pale with fear. The handsome and aloof young man pleaded with me with a trembling voice, "Miss Xue Ro, please, save my sister." I couldn't understand. Xue Qin had gone to great lengths to lock me in the orphanage toilet in the past life, stealing my chance to be adopted by the richest Fu family. She had gained 3 family members who cherished her so much and such a privileged life. Why didn't she cherish it? Why did she want to break off relations with the Fu family, who had raised her? For that good-for-nothing gangster, Xing Yan, did Xue Qin even realize how much happier she had been than me in the past 5 years? 10 minutes ago, Fu Xingji, Xue Qin's brother, found me at the vegetable market near the school. At that time, I was busy killing fish for customers to earn my high school tuition and living expenses. After Xue Qin stole my chance to be adopted by the Fu family, I was adopted by a poor couple. Unlike the Fu family, who adopted Xue Qin out of love, my adoptive parents took me in not to raise a daughter but to find a child bride for their disabled and mentally challenged son. So, even though I ranked 10th in the city in the high school entrance examination, they forced me to drop out of school, making me, who had just turned 15, take on the responsibility of supporting the family and marry my mentally challenged brother. Every time I brought home an award certificate from school, My adoptive mother would look at me with disdain. What's the use of reading so much? You can't earn a single penny and just keep spending our money. That Xingyan next door has much worse grades than you, but he managed to date the daughter of the richest family. Just one of her earrings is worth our family of four's annual living expenses. Why can't you learn from him? All you do is study mindlessly all day long. My adoptive father, half drunk, would slam the table and say sternly, "Don't go to high school. We don't have that much spare money to support your studies. Go work in a factory after the high school entrance examination and send money home for living expenses. Get married to your brother as soon as you turn 18, later." After I repeatedly promised to earn my own high school tuition and living expenses and pay them 1,500 yuan every month as the family's living expenses, my adoptive parents reluctantly agreed to let me continue my high school education. So, I worked day and night during all my vacations. I got up at 5 in the morning to deliver milk by bicycle, killed and sold fish at the vegetable market during the day, and worked as a waiter, washing dishes and cleaning up food waste at a restaurant in the evening. When I was hungry, I ate leftover food for dinner. I was willing to do any dirty or tiring job as long as it could make money. I would swallow any wilted vegetable leaves as long as it could save money. It was all for the sake of earning enough money to continue my studies, because I knew that only through studying could I struggle out of the quagmire of my fate. 3. With a sizzle, blood spurted from the fish head and splattered all over my face. The strong smell of fish instantly filled my nostrils. The noble and handsome young man standing in front of me couldn't help but frown and take 2 steps back. I wiped my face with my apron, scratched my head awkwardly, and apologized. "Sorry, I scared you. Do you want to buy fish? Are you Shui Ro?" Perhaps realizing his gaffe, the young man blushed and quickly reached out his hand to me politely. "I'm Fu Xingji, Shui Qin's brother. Can you help me persuade Shui Qin?" So, from Fu Xingji, I learned about Shui Qin's suicide attempt for Xingyan. The Fu family thought that perhaps only I, her blood-related sister, might be able to persuade Shui Qin. I was taken to the school rooftop by Fu Xingji. 4. Looking at Shui Qin, dressed in expensive clothes and exuding an air of nobility, I lowered my head in self-consciousness and glanced at my own dirty, fishy, and bloody, tattered and faded apron. At that moment, I realized that there was an insurmountable gap between Shui Qin and me. She no longer worried about money. She was no longer the poor little orphan in the orphanage who was bullied by others. She had a superior family background, loving parents, and a brother who treated her like a precious gem. That's why she could so recklessly threaten them with her life. But now, she was giving up the good life she had stolen. She wanted to be with Xingyan and live the same poor life I was living, a life with no hope or future in sight. I walked up to Shui Qin and held out my hands, which were covered in calluses and frostbite, right in front of her. "Shui Qin, do you even realize how good your life is? Do you know what it feels like to fish out live fish from ice, cold water in 5° below zero weather? The French cuisine you love so much costs 5 or 6,000 yuan per meal. That's the amount of money I can earn by working day and night for 2 months without eating or drinking." Shui Qin looked down at my hands and said disdainfully, "If I can be with Xingyan, I don't care how much hardship I have to endure. You all are just mundane people who only talk about money all day long. You don't understand what love is at all. It's true that I like French cuisine, but the plain porridge that Xingyan cooks for me tastes 1,000, no, 10,000 times better than any French cuisine." The more Shui Qin spoke, the more excited she became, and she took another step back. She pointed at her adoptive parents with her clean, slender fingers that had never done any hard work and said, "If I could do it all over again, I would never choose you as my parents. You're always trying to control me. I'm just a tool for you to show off your kindness. You don't really love me. Only Xingyan truly loves me, and you sent him to prison. I hate you." The next second, she slipped and fell straight off the building. I instinctively reached out to grab her. Unexpectedly, she dragged me down with her. After Shui Qin's death, Xingyan framed Fu Xingji in prison, falsely claiming that Fu Xingji had coveted his adoptive sister since childhood. He even forged many love letters that he claimed were written by Fu Xingji to Shui Qin, since Shui Qin's suicide was suspicious and there was no way to prove otherwise. Netizens were more inclined to believe Xingyan's conspiracy theory. Suddenly, Fu Xingji went from a graceful young master to a hated outcast. The Fu group fell into a huge public opinion crisis, was boycotted by the whole country, and eventually went bankrupt. Mrs. Fu couldn't bear the blow and died of a heart attack. Mr. Fu, having lost both his daughter and wife in his old age, couldn't withstand the immense mental pressure and went insane. Just because of adopting an ungrateful and infatuated daughter, the Fu family met a tragic end. When I opened my eyes again, I had actually returned to the day when the Fu family came to the orphanage to adopt a child. 5. At that moment, I had already been locked in the toilet by Xue Qin. I desperately banged on the door and shouted for help. This time, I was determined to change my own destiny and the destiny of the Fu family. I no longer wanted to live in constant fear that my mentally challenged brother would peek at me through the door crack, by the window, or on the roof while I was taking a bath. I wanted Xue Qin's polite, self-controlled, patient, and noble brother. Perhaps God heard my sincere prayer. The next second, the door opened. The person outside was actually Xue Qin. Xue Qin looked at me, gasping for breath, and the joy on her face was impossible to hide. Fortunately, it's not too late. She affectionately took my hand. Xue Rou, the Fu couple is coming to adopt a daughter. Would you like to be their daughter? They're the richest family in the capital. You'll never have to worry about food and clothing for the rest of your life. So, Xue Qin had also been reborn, afraid that Xue Qin would change her mind or that we would miss the opportunity due to delay. I quickly interrupted her and said firmly, I would. Xue Qin was overjoyed. She turned on the faucet and carefully washed my face. Xue Rou, I heard from the orphanage director that Mrs. Fu is very fastidious. You must clean yourself up well. Don't let her dislike you because you're dirty. I held her back and confirmed again and again. Xue Qin, are you really not going to the Fu family? Xue Qin impatiently swatted my hand away. What's so great about the Fu family? All they have is money. I don't care about that. Besides, that controlling old woman in the Fu family originally wanted to adopt you. I'm going to pursue the only happiness in my life. What do you, a little kid? No, I'd rather die than be that unfree young lady in the Fu family. After getting Xue Qin's affirmative answer, I bent down, grabbed a handful of dirt from the ground, and threw it at her face. With a splat, the dirt hit Xue Qin's face hard, and she let out a cry of pain. Xue Qin frowned and was about to lose her temper with me when she suddenly seemed to understand something. She smeared the dirt all over her face. What a smart little sister you are. Why didn't I think of this? This time, that picky old woman in the Fu family will definitely not want to adopt me. I sneered and agreed with her. Yes, sister, since you don't want to go to the Fu family, of course I'll help you, no matter what. In this life, I would prevent the Fu family from adopting the ungrateful Xue Qin. 6. In the orphanage courtyard, Xue Qin desperately pushed me into Mrs. Fu's arms. Mr. and Mrs. Fu, please adopt my sister. She's more obedient, better behaved, and cleaner than me. Mrs. Fu frowned and covered her nose as she looked at the dirty and smelly Xue Qin, but she still said gently, are you really not willing to come with us? We have a lot of toys at home, endless cakes, and a nanny who can help you take a bath. Xue Qin refused outright. I don't want you as my parents at all. I don't think rich parents are necessarily good parents. Many rich people are heartless. Seeing Mrs. Fu looking embarrassed, the orphanage director quickly smoothed things over. Xue Qin is a naughty girl, but Xue Rou is very obedient. Why don't you take Xue Rou first? Mrs. Fu didn't seem to mind. She squatted down and gently asked for my opinion. Little Xue Rou, would you like to be my daughter? I nodded vigorously. Mrs. Fu smiled and stroked my head. Such a good girl. I took her hand initiatively and said sweetly, Mom, I'll be good. I'll never make you sad. I would never be an ungrateful person like Xue Qin in the past life and make the Fu family sad. The orphanage director smiled and urged me to go pack my things, while she led the Fu couple to complete the adoption procedures. When I went back to my room to pack my luggage, I heard Xue Qin laughing softly behind the door. Go ahead, my dear sister. Those cold-blooded freaks in the Fu family will torture you to death sooner or later. Images of being oppressed by my poor adoptive parents in the past life flashed through my mind one by one. Looking at the old and dilapidated wooden door, I shouted loudly to Xue Qin behind it, Xue Qin, don't you ever regret your choice today. I'll never trade places with you again. Xue Qin sneered. Don't worry, I definitely won't regret it. Is that so? I thought to myself. Poor and blood-sucking parents, a mentally challenged and lecherous brother, and a good-for-nothing gangster boyfriend. Xue Qin, Do you really have the ability to break free from such a quagmire? Do you know that no matter how many times someone is reborn, being blindly infatuated with love never leads to a good ending? In the Fu family's villa, Mrs. Fu took my hand and led me to a light pink princess-themed room. Ruru, your brother decorated this room for you. Do you like it? I hid my tattered cuffs and looked around the room nervously. It was not just a room but a suite larger than the average four-person family's living space. There was a spacious walk-in closet filled to the brim, a separate bathroom with a dry, wet partition, and an expensive starry sky ceiling. Xueqin's life in her past life was much better than I had imagined. All the clothes in the closet were expensive designer brands: Hermes, Chanel, Burberry, Louis Vuitton, Gucci. Mom didn't know what colors you like, so I bought all the colors of the same style. You can choose the ones you like to wear. Okay. A warm current flowed through my heart. Since my parents died, she was the first person to be so kind to me. I said gratefully, I like anything Mom chooses. What a good girl you are. Ruru, you must have suffered a lot in the orphanage, right? Mrs. Fu touched my head affectionately, pulled me into her arms, and pointed at the family photo on the table, joking. Mom has always dreamed of having a daughter. Look, when your brother was a child, I raised him like a daughter. Too bad your brother grew up and no longer wants to be a little girl. In the photo, the little boy had 2 pigtails and was wearing a pink-purple princess tulle dress, looking both cute and a bit funny. I couldn't help but laugh. Fu Xingji suddenly popped out from somewhere, always precocious and steady. He took a quick step and stood in front of me, his handsome face blushing as he waved his hand. Don't look. Don't look. Look at how stingy your brother is. Mrs. Fu said angrily, you're not allowed to bully your sister. You have to protect her. Understand? Fu Xingji nodded, his bright black eyes fixed on me like shining stars in the night sky, and said solemnly, I will. During meals, Mrs. Fu patiently taught me table manners. Girls should sit and stand properly, with dignity and grace. Sit up straight, hold your bowl, and eat slowly, spoonful by spoonful. Don't make smacking sounds, it's not elegant. When eating out, don't reach for food more than 3 times in a row. Even if you like a dish very much, don't keep eating it, it's impolite. I nodded and followed her instructions one by one. Perhaps Xueqin thought Mrs. Fu was trying to control her life by teaching her these things, but I didn't think so. Mrs. Fu wasn't controlling me. Instead, she was using her life experience to protect me and prevent me from making many mistakes and hitting many dead ends. In my past life, I grew up stumbling on my own. My adoptive parents only gave me enough food to survive and never taught me anything. When I was 12 years old, I got my first period. My stomach hurt terribly, and blood stained the bed. I thought I was seriously ill and was going to die, so I could only cry secretly under the covers. Early the next morning, when my adoptive mother saw the blood on my bed sheet, she dragged me out of bed like a madwoman and slapped me hard several times. You good for nothing. You've ruined the mattress. Go wash it clean right now. Don't eat if you can't wash it clean. Hungry, with a swollen face, I crouched in the toilet, shivering in the sub-zero weather, scrubbing the tattered bed sheet. My adoptive mother was too stingy to buy me sanitary pads and only let me use toilet paper. But toilet paper wasn't absorbent enough, so there were always bloodstains on my pants. My classmates didn't like me because of this. They isolated me, bullied me, and called me a little beggar. Having a loving mother to discipline, care for, and take care of me was something I couldn't even dream of in my past life. But Xueqin didn't cherish it at all. Then let me cherish it for her. And since she likes suffering so much, let her endure the hardships I suffered in my past life. For those who can endure hardships, there will always be more hardships waiting for them. 8. With Mrs. Fu's full support, I mastered many skills that I didn't have in my past life: piano, violin, go, skiing, ballet, mathematical Olympiad, painting. Mrs. Fu spared no expense and signed me up for all the interest classes I was interested in. Everyone has their own talents, and all I can do is keep giving you opportunities to try until you find your true talent. Learn whatever you like. Mom will never force you, but I also won't let you waste your talent through laziness. I cherished every learning opportunity and tried my best in everything I studied, but my best subject was mathematical Olympiad. Looking at the full-mark math test paper I brought home, Mrs. Fu suddenly thought of Xueqin. Ruru, you're so talented in studying, your sister should be good at it too, right? Although she didn't want to be adopted by us. Mom still wants to provide her with a good learning environment. What do you think? Girls should always read more books. I thought Mrs. Fu must have asked Xueqin the same question in my past life, and she must have refused without hesitation. This time, the choice was finally in my hands, but I didn't want to directly reject Mrs. Fu's suggestion. After all, Xueqin was my only sister. And I didn't want Mrs. Fu to think I was indifferent to family ties. Anyway, even if given the chance, Xueqin wouldn't cherish it. To help Mrs. Fu see clearly that Xueqin was hopeless, I nodded in agreement. So, the next day, Xueqin was specially admitted to our school and became my classmate. At the age of 16 or 17, in the prime of adolescence, young boys and girls began to care about their appearance and engage in subtle competitions. But Xueqin was as embarrassed as I was in my past life. She wore loose, old clothes left by her brother, and she only had one pair of shoes all year round. Even the bloodstains on her pants were so similar to mine in the past life. Soon, she became the center of the students' gossip during breaks. Have you seen Xueqin's clothes and shoes? It seems like she hasn't changed them for a long time. Doesn't it stink after wearing them for so long? There's always a strange smell around her. It's so disgusting. I saw Xueqin eating leftovers in the cafeteria yesterday. I don't know how she can swallow them. They both have the surname Xue, but Xuero and Xueqin are worlds apart. Xuero not only has good grades and a good family background but also has a brother who dotes on her so much. I'm so envious. I listened to their gossip casually while trying to solve the math competition problems I hadn't figured out yet. Xueqin turned around and gave me a pleading look. But I didn't stop the other students from talking. My situation in my past life was thousands of times worse than Xueqin's. I even had to earn my own tuition, and now she at least received financial support from the Fu family. If Xueqin really wanted to study and didn't care about money and fame as she claimed in her past life, these idle remarks would definitely not stop her from moving forward. Unexpectedly, instead of confronting the classmates, Xueqin turned her anger on me. Seeing that I wouldn't help her, she flew into a rage, rushed to my desk, tore up my test paper, and shouted at me, "Xuero, you did this on purpose, didn't you? You deliberately asked Mrs. Fu to get me into this school just to show off how well you're doing in the Fu family, right? I'm not like you, a snobbish person who would sell her freedom to curry favor with the Fu family." She was still the same as in her past life, bullying the weak and being tough on those close to her. Hearing this, Fu Xingji, who sat in front of me, pushed Xueqin away unhappily. He frowned, showing an expression he would never have shown Xueqin in his past life, impatience and anger. "Xueqin, what are you going crazy for? Leave my sister alone, brother." Xueqin instinctively pouted and acted coquettishly at Fu Xingji. "How can you side with her instead of me?" Fu Xingji lifted his eyelids, his eyes cold as he looked at her, and said indifferently, "First of all, I only have Ruru as my sister. Secondly, although we're classmates, I think you should respect boundaries and stop calling me brother casually." Xueqin sneered. "As I expected, people change. Xingyan is the only one who truly loves me, just as I thought." After saying that, she turned and ran towards the classroom door in a fit of pique. After running a short distance, she reluctantly looked back at Fu Xingji. Perhaps she was expecting that, like in her past life, no matter how unreasonable she was, he would still spoil and persuade her. But Fu Xingji didn't even glance in the direction she left. Instead, he picked up the pieces of my test paper one by one, turned to me with a doting smile in his eyes, ruffled my hair, and comforted me. "Don't worry, brother will stick it back together for you." Xueqin froze, standing at the door and staring at me intently. Her eyes were filled with complex emotions, anger, unwillingness, jealousy, but more than anything else, there was deep regret. Perhaps to provoke Fu Xingji, Xueqin began to wander around our classroom door with Xingyan on purpose. During breaks, they would even kiss in the school corridor as if no one else was around. At such times, Fu Xingji would always cover my eyes from behind, his voice hoarse, "Little one, don't look." Seeing this, Xueqin became even angrier. She and Xingyan ignored school rules more and more, skipping classes, smoking, drinking, getting tattoos, and fighting. It seemed that Xueqin wanted to regain Fu Xingji's attention by degrading herself, but she didn't understand that only those who loved her would care about her degradation. To Fu Xingji in this life, Xueqin was just a stranger. No matter how much she tortured herself, He didn't even bother to give her a glance. Later, Xueqin and Xingyan were caught being intimate on the playground by the dean, according to school rules. One of them had to be expelled for having a romantic relationship on campus. Xueqin's adoptive parents and Xingyan's parents got into a fight in the school corridor. Xingyan's parents said extremely harsh words. "How did you raise your daughter? She comes to school not to study but to seduce men. If anyone should be expelled, it's your flirtatious daughter. With her around, who knows how many innocent boys she'll corrupt. Our son was led astray by your slutty daughter." Xueqin's adoptive parents were even more outraged. Originally, Xueqin was supposed to be a child bride for their mentally challenged son. Now, not only had someone else taken her first, but they were also being blamed. Angry, Xueqin's adoptive parents started fighting with Xingyan's parents in the corridor. "Do you think you're in the right for stealing our daughter-in-law?" Xueqin's mentally challenged brother drooled, chasing after Xueqin and shouting non-stop, "Dear Qin. My wife Qin." Xingyan's face was darker than the bottom of a pot, but he didn't dare to step forward to stop them. After all, Xueqin's mentally challenged brother was taller, stronger, and wouldn't be punished by law for hitting someone. The whole school was laughing at them. In the end, Xingyan didn't take the responsibility a man should. Instead, he shifted all the blame to Xueqin. He took out the love letters Xueqin wrote to him and said shamelessly, "She seduced me first." Xueqin's adoptive parents chased after her, hitting her and shouting, "How could we have such a slut in our family? Are you that desperate for men? Why didn't you want to sleep with your brother at home?" Finally, Xueqin was expelled from school. Mrs. Fu gave up the idea of continuing to support her. "If a person gives up on helping themselves, there's nothing I can do to help them. Even if I'm willing to provide the best conditions, they still can't thrive. Because they're not willing to make the effort to build a solid foundation." The next time I heard about Xueqin was from Xingyan. One day after school, it was my turn to be on duty. Fu Xingji was helping me clean the blackboard in the classroom, and I was about to take the bucket of dirty water to the toilet to empty it. At the toilet door, I heard Xingyan's vulgar words, "Brother Yan, how far have you gone with that Xueqin?" Xingyan held a cigarette between his fingers, blew a smoke ring into the air, and said disdainfully, "That bitch slept with me in a public toilet. It was too easy. Now she's even pregnant. Boring. Damn, really." The boy next to Xingyan nudged him with his elbow. Impressed, "You're the best, Brother Yan. She smells like fish." "Disgusting," Xingyan bragged triumphantly. "Women are all, the more you ignore them, the more they come to you, the more you fawn over them, the more they play hard to get." With a splash, I poured the dirty water on Xingyan and smiled at him. "Is your mother a woman? Is she bitchy?" Although Xueqin's infatuation was hateful, a scumbag like Xingyan, who trampled on others' feelings and philandered, was even more disgusting. Xingyan frowned, wiped the water off his face, clenched his jaw, and cursed at me, "Xuero. Who the hell do you think you are? Everyone in school knows there's something fishy between you and your brother. Maybe he's already slept with you countless times. Are you interested in sleeping with me too since you're so concerned about me?" I didn't say a word. When he wasn't expecting it, I kicked him in the groin. For a sleazy man who only talked about vulgar things, it was only fitting to kick him so hard that he couldn't have children. I just couldn't understand what Xueqin saw in this scumbag. Xingyan curled up on the ground, clutching his groin and letting out agonized cries. He angrily shouted, "Idiots, beat her up. What are you waiting for?" At his command, the boy next to him swung his fist and charged at me. I couldn't dodge in time and instinctively blocked him with the bucket, but the expected punch didn't land on me. When I looked up, I saw that Fu Xingji had appeared out of nowhere, standing tall. He blocked the boy's punch, twisted his arm, and threw him to the ground. "Are you trying to get yourselves killed?" Over the past few years, Fu Xingji had grown incredibly tall. As soon as he got his new school uniform, the trouser legs were already way too short. His side profile had become more sharply defined, making him look refined and handsome. There were countless girls at school who gave him love letters. When Fu Xingji stood there quietly, you'd never imagine how terrifying he could be when he fought. He took off his glasses, rolled up his sleeves, and right in front of me, he brutally beat Xingyan and that other boy, landing punch after punch. He beat them until they were covered in blood and bruises. It was the first time I'd seen Fu Xingji so violent, and I couldn't stop him no matter what. It wasn't until the school security guards rushed over upon hearing the commotion that Fu Xingji grabbed my hand and we ran away. The next day, the teacher called Mrs. Fu and Xingyan's parents to school. After learning what had happened, Mrs. Fu didn't blame me or Fu Xingji at all. She just coldly said to Xingyan's parents, "If you're not satisfied, sue us in court. We can afford whatever the court orders us to pay. As for your son, I will hold him accountable for the verbal attacks and humiliation he directed at my daughter. This school is a property of the Fu family, and someone like your son, who spouts vulgarities, isn't fit to study here. Pack your things and get out today." Xingyan's parents kicked him in frustration. "We used up all our savings to send you to school, and what do? Instead of studying hard, you cause trouble and get into fights. Now, you've lost the chance to study. Go sell fish at the market with that Xueqin next door." Then, they grabbed Mrs. Fu's sleeve, knelt down, and started crying and pleading pitifully, "Please, have mercy on our child. You can't ruin his future." Xingyan, with layers of gauze wrapped around his head, still looked defiant. He spat at Mrs. Fu viciously and said angrily, "Bah, don't look down on us poor people. Don't bully a young man just because he's poor. If you keep picking on my family and force us into a confrontation, watch out or I'll skin you alive." He showed no sign of regret at all. Mrs. Fu, who had always been extremely clean, frowned in disgust and shouted angrily, "Security, security! Throw them out right now." As soon as she finished speaking, 6 tall bodyguards rushed in, and in pairs, they carried Xingyan and his parents out and dumped them outside. I thought the matter was over, but on the day of the math competition, Xueqin blocked me at the school gate with a group of young hooligan girls, demanding an explanation. "Xuero, you've been deliberately targeting Xingyan. You like him, don't you? You're trying to get his attention and seduce him with these tricks, right?" 9. I was immediately shocked by her logic. Seriously, was she crazy? Could any normal person say such things? The way an infatuated girl's mind worked was truly beyond comprehension. I tried to reason with her kindly. "I had a conflict with Xingyan because he was bragging vulgarly to other boys at the toilet door about sleeping with you. We're both women. Don't think I don't know what you're up to." Xueqin rolled her eyes at me. "He was showing off to his friends because he loves me. Isn't it enough that you're seducing my brother? Now you want to seduce my boyfriend too?" Then, she sneered, "Since you like Xingyan so much, how about we make a deal? I don't mind if you sleep with him, as long as you give my brother back to me." So that's it. After saying all that nonsense, Xueqin was actually regretting it. She wanted to switch back, to become the young miss of the Fu family again, not indulging her. I slapped her right across the face. Xueqin covered her face and turned to the girls behind her, crying out, "Hit her. Did Brother Yan ask you to come here just to watch me get slapped?" The hooligan girls behind Xueqin swarmed forward and cornered me. She ordered, "Scratch her face and tear off her clothes. I want to see what this seductress relies on to make men obsessed with her." The girls followed her order and immediately pinned me to the ground. "Who dares?" I shouted. "I'm the only daughter of the Fu family. Do you all want to lose your parents' jobs?" Hearing this, the girls quickly jumped off me and said timidly, "Sister Qin, you didn't tell us she's from the Fu family. It's not that we don't want to help you, but we really can't afford to mess with the Fu family." "Humph," Xueqin sneered, "she's just an adopted daughter, a tool for the Fu family to show off their kindness. Do you really think the Fu family would go to great lengths for her?" Seeing that they still didn't dare to act, Xueqin threatened, "If you don't hit her, when you go back today, Brother Yan will beat you instead." Before she could finish, I swung my fist and punched her, knocking her out cold. A skinny girl like her, who often went hungry, thought she could fight me. Someone who ate meat, eggs, and dairy every day and worked out regularly. How stupid. When the other girls saw this, they were so scared that they dropped Xueqin and scattered in all directions. I checked Xueqin's breathing to make sure she was still alive, called an ambulance for her, and then went to take the math competition. I thought our lives would no longer intersect, but I underestimated her audacity. The day I won a gold medal in the math competition and got recommended for admission to Tsinghua University, Xueqin came to cause trouble. 10. She showed up at the Fu family's door, her belly swollen, knocking desperately. As soon as the butler opened the door, Xueqin rushed forward and hugged Mrs. Fu tightly, sobbing, "Mom, please take me to get an abortion. I don't want to be with Xingyan anymore." She rolled up her sleeves, revealing bruises all over her arms. "Xingyan flirts with other women outside every day. When I scold him, he beats me." Mrs. Fu was shocked and looked at Xueqin in confusion. Although she didn't know what Xueqin was up to, she still tried to persuade her kindly. You should go to your current adoptive parents and ask them to negotiate with the Xing family. You're not our daughter, so we can't interfere in your family affairs. They don't care about me at all. They won't even feed me, Xueqin cried. Looking extremely pitiful, she looked around and asked, "Where's my brother, Mom? If you won't help me, I'm sure my brother won't abandon me. My brother loves me the most." Click, the door lock turned, a pair of long legs in a well-tailored suit stepped through the door. Fu Xingji's hand holding a black umbrella was pale and cold-looking. As soon as he spoke, his gentle tone seemed to dispel the dampness and cold outside. "Ruru, go wash your hands and come eat your favorite cake." The corners of his handsome eyes curved, and he looked at me intently, his tone coaxing, not even noticing Xueqin, who was throwing a tantrum on the ground. Xueqin immediately crawled over and hugged Fu Xingji's slender calves tightly, tears and snot streaming down her face, afraid that he would kick her away at any moment. Brother, you won't abandon me, right? You used to dote on Qin the most." Only then did Fu Xingji notice Xueqin on the ground. He quickly kicked her away. His eyes filled with undisguised disgust. "Miss Xueqin, can you respect some boundaries? Who's your brother? If you're crazy, go be crazy somewhere else. Today is a special day for Ruru's admission, so please don't spoil the mood." "Okay." Xueqin was stunned, then she remembered she hadn't told them she was reborn, so she quickly explained, "No, Mom, brother, I'm perfectly sane. I've been reborn. In my past life, Mom adopted me. Not Xuero. I was your daughter, not Xuero, in this life. Xuero stole my life, the love that should have been mine, and all of you." Mrs. Fu frowned in confusion. "But if I adopted you in your past life, then why did you refuse so strongly when I went to the Welfare Institute to adopt a child this time? Besides, I wanted to adopt Ruru from the start. If there really was a past life, how could I have only adopted you and not Ruru?" Xueqin looked embarrassed and stammered, unable to give a proper explanation. "I thought it was time for the Fu family to know the truth. I clearly and slowly told them everything about the past life, including how Xueqin stole my chance to be adopted and how she destroyed the Fu family for that gangster Xingyan, causing them to lose everything and be torn apart." Before I could finish, everyone's faces turned pale. Mrs. Fu was so angry that she ordered people to throw Xueqin out. Xueqin was shocked and terrified. She never expected that I was reborn too. At a loss for words, she rolled on the ground, refusing to leave, and cried hysterically, "No, I won't go. I'm the young miss of the Fu family. Xuero, you imposter, you stole my life. You won't die a good death. You did it on purpose. You deliberately let me be with that good-for-nothing Xingyan and get pregnant by him. You want to ruin my life. How could you be so vicious? Damn it, Xueqin, who are you calling a good-for-nothing?" Xingyan's furious voice came from outside the door. "I never thought you were such a vain woman. You keep saying you love me, but now that you see the rich Fu family, you're crawling all over them, trying to seduce the young master of the Fu family, right? See if anyone other than me would ever look at a used-up woman like you, and you want to abort my child. If you dare to do that, I'll kill you." As he spoke, Xingyan rushed forward and hit Xueqin's head hard twice. Xueqin fainted on the spot. Still enraged, he kicked her in the stomach twice, shouting as he did so, "You piece of trash, who knows if that's even my kid? You all can go to hell." The driver whispered to me secretly, "Miss, it's a good thing you were so foresight and sent me to find Xingyan, otherwise, we really wouldn't have been able to deal with these hooligans. Once you get involved with them, it's almost impossible to get rid of them." Soon, the police and an ambulance arrived. Xingyan was arrested and taken to the police station for assault. When giving his statement, Xingyan still argued confidently, "What law am I breaking by hitting my own wife? That bitch not only wants to cling to a rich second generation but also wants to kill my child. Doesn't she deserve to be beaten? I wouldn't even feel satisfied if I killed such a materialistic woman." The lawyer hired by Xingyan's parents had initially tried to get him to be more careful with his words. But seeing how arrogant and oblivious he was, the lawyer gave up and just watched him rant and rave in front of the police. Xueqin had severe bleeding from the kicks and was hospitalized in a coma. But the first thing she did when she woke up was ask if Xingyan had been arrested. "If Brother Yan gets arrested, my child will grow up without a father." Xueqin's adoptive parents didn't tolerate her nonsense and slapped her. "All you do is cry, you useless thing." Then they shouted at Xingyan's parents outside the door, We won't sign the letter of forgiveness for your son without 200,000 yuan. Let him rot in jail for 10 or 8 years. Your son kicked my daughter, causing her to give birth prematurely and lose her ability to have children. Her brother is waiting for this money to get married. You figure it out." Unable to reach an agreement, the two sets of parents started fighting again beside Xueqin's hospital bed, looking at the chaotic scene. Listening to the baby's non-stop crying, and thinking about her bleak future, Xueqin fainted again. After being discharged from the hospital, without any qualifications, Xueqin could only work as a cashier at a supermarket. Dragging her weak body, the money she earned had to be used to buy milk powder for the baby, support herself, and send living expenses to Xingyan in prison. Xingyan threatened her in letters that if she dared to stop sending money, he'd kill her as soon as he got out. Xueqin finally got her wish and lived a life where she could have plain porridge every day. The only problem was that plain porridge was all she could afford. She wanted to get revenge on Xuero, but Xuero had already gone to study in the United States. 4 years later, I returned to China after attending a math conference in the United States. As soon as I got off the plane, Fu Xingji stuffed a bag of cakes into my hands. "Here, your favorite cakes, just don't let mom see, or she'll scold me again for letting you eat junk food." On the way home, I turned to look at Fu Xingji, who was driving. His hand rested on the steering wheel, and the sleeves of his shirt were casually rolled up. "Brother, I heard from mom that she set you up on blind dates. But you're not satisfied with any of the young ladies. With such high standards, you might end up single forever, you know." Fu Xingji's thin lips curved into a lazy smile. "You're one to talk, aren't you the same? Mom said if neither of us can find a partner, we might as well just get together. That way, she won't have to worry about our marriages when she's old." I protested loudly. "Brother, you might not be wanted, but I definitely am." The next second, Fu Xingji stopped the car. He raised an eyebrow, leaned towards me, and his sharply defined handsome face suddenly loomed much closer. You've got some nerve, secretly dating behind my and mom's backs. Let me see which brat it is." For some reason, my cheeks started to burn hot. I quickly pushed him away and said guiltily, "I was just kidding. If you lie again, do you believe I'll punish you?" After a long day, I was feeling a bit sleepy, so I stopped arguing with him and closed my eyes to rest. In a daze, I felt myself being wrapped in a broad embrace. Strong arms scooped me up, one around my legs and the other around my back. Through the thin fabric of my clothes, I could faintly feel the warmth of his chest. The next moment, a warm sensation spread across my lips, and the faint scent of cold pine filled my mouth. Who was kissing me? I opened my eyes and saw that Fu Xingji was carrying me into the house. He looked normal, except for a faint smear of lipstick on the corner of his mouth. Well, it must have been a dream. It's all my fault for having such improper thoughts about my brother. That's why I had such a dream. But someone please tell me, why was my brother's ears so red? Story 2. After confessing my love to Uncle Li Yuli, a family friend, he took me to meet a girl in a wheelchair. Her name was Fan Yueshi, and she was also his future partner. Li Yuli said that Fan Yueshi had lost her legs and her dreams while saving him, and he had to take responsibility for her. I didn't understand. Did one really have to marry someone to repay a life-saving grace? He didn't answer my question. In my previous life, I didn't believe that Li Yuli didn't love me and constantly tested his limits, until he watched as his subordinates broke my fingers one by one. He didn't even frown when he heard my heart-rending screams. I was completely heartbroken. Later, because my injuries were too severe and I could no longer go to the operating table, I was ultimately depressed and committed suicide by cutting my wrists. When I woke up again, I didn't hesitate to submit an application to become a doctor without borders. I stepped back from the position of his little niece. When the application was approved, I finally let out a sigh of relief. My fingertips trembled uncontrollably, and my eyes were red, but I didn't even notice. No one knew that I had been reborn. I was 21 years old. At the moment before I was about to confess my love to Li Yuli, that day, I was wearing a dress he had custom-made for me at great expense, and I had booked the most luxurious hotel in Jingbei. I invited many friends to witness the beginning of our love. Since I could remember, Li Yuli had been by my side. My parents were doctors without borders, and their whereabouts were uncertain. I saw them only a few times a year. Li Yuli had accompanied me through almost the first half of my life. The happy times and the unhappy times, People in the circle had tacitly agreed that I was Li Yuli's child bride in waiting. In my previous life, several of my close friends gave me a lot of ideas when they knew I was going to confess, which made my face turn red. I was secretly looking forward to it in my heart, but no one expected that Li Yuli would reject me, just like in my previous life. Li Yuli seemed to have already guessed what I was going to do. His brows were slightly furrowed, and he was rubbing his 2 fingers, brewing words to reject me. The emotions in the bottom of his eyes were unclear. At that time, I thought Li Yuli was just worried that I was younger than him and couldn't distinguish between love and affection, so I smiled and said, "Uncle, I like you. My heart beats uncontrollably faster when I see you. When I can't see you, I miss you crazily. It's an emotion that I can't suppress no matter what. I'm very sure that my feelings for you are love." The others also joined in the jeer, and it ended up in a hasty conclusion, and that day, I was still smiling, but the smile didn't reach my eyes. Just as he was about to speak, I took a step ahead. "Uncle, the research project that I worked on for a year was completed last week. I'm very happy, so I want to celebrate." Li Yuli was stunned on the spot. My friends also looked at each other in dismay. When they were about to speak, I glanced at them indifferently. Only then did they smile awkwardly and silently put the banner that read, say yes, behind them. A confession ended without a result. After the event, Li Yuli was smoking in the corridor with his friend. He leaned against the wall, and his slender, boned hands played with a gold-embossed lighter. The flame flickered on and off. His friend teased with a smile, "With this commotion today, I thought Seria was going to confess her love to you. I didn't expect it to be a false alarm." Li Yuli closed his eyes slightly, with a faint smile on his lips. "A little girl's thoughts, don't guess randomly. I have no other intentions towards Jinue. Taking care of her is just because of the friendship with her family." His friend didn't believe it. "You're just too close to the situation to see clearly. Look at the way your little girl looks at you. Do you think we're stupid? If you were really innocent, why did you go and warn that little boy when he confessed his love to your little girl? You even pretended to be her boyfriend." Li Yuli didn't say anything. I didn't listen anymore either and withdrew into the darkness. In my previous life, Li Yuli was like this. His kindness to me had long crossed the line, yet he just refused to admit it. After returning home, I submitted an application to become a doctor without borders. After my parents died successively in the war zone, I wanted to carry on their legacy. It's just that in my previous life, it ended before it even started. Fortunately, heaven pitied me and gave me a chance to start over. 2. I looked at the reporting date, then at the desk calendar next to me. I took out a pen and silently marked the reporting day. Coincidentally, that day was Li Yuli's birthday. Suddenly, there was a knock on my door. It was Li Yuli. He was used to knocking twice and then coming in, but this time, there was a girl following him. The girl was in a wheelchair, wearing a white dress. There was not a trace of blood on her face, and her eyes were filled with a faint melancholy. She looked extremely delicate. "Jinue, come here," he said to me. I didn't move. I just glanced at the girl. She was Fanyueshi. I thought that without my confession, Li Yuli wouldn't bring her in front of me. But I didn't expect that what was supposed to happen would still happen. "Jinue." Li Yuli frowned and called me again. Fanyueshi saw that I had a cold expression. She lowered her eyes and said in a very soft voice, "Yuli, it's okay. It's normal that Miss Shin doesn't like me when we meet for the first time. If she minds my presence, I can go back to the villa in the suburbs. I can't go anywhere without my legs. It doesn't matter where I live, I don't have to live here." As she spoke, her eyes were filled with tears, but they didn't fall. She was like a delicate little flower, pretending to be strong. Li Yuli's frown deepened, and his gaze towards me held a bit of disappointment. "Jinue, uncle, you can arrange for whoever you want to live in the villa. You don't actually have to tell me. You're the master of this house." My voice was flat, revealing nothing, but in Li Yuli's ears, it was full of thorns. He thought I was throwing a tantrum. "Jinue, you don't need to talk to me in this tone. I brought Ueshi to meet you today because I want you to meet your little aunt. 3 years ago, during the earthquake, she lost her legs while saving me. I need to take responsibility for her. If you still want to stay in this house, well, put away your spoiled girl temper and don't cause trouble for Ueshi." His warning gaze swept over me. I wanted to say something, but in the end, I remained silent. Actually, I couldn't blame him. I had an extreme possessiveness towards Li Yuli. Since I was a child, I hoped that I was the only one in his eyes and that the only woman by his side could be me. So over the years, He had no romantic scandals. Even if a woman dared to make a false claim, I would deal with her. All his favoritism and exceptions were for me. So in my previous life, when he was going to marry Fanyueshi, I had a breakdown. Did one really have to marry someone to repay a life-saving grace? I thought about it for a long, long time. I lost my life. I still couldn't figure it out. Now I've figured it out. Some things just can't be understood. 3. Fanyueshi was going to stay in the room next to Liuli's. It used to be mine. Before Liuli brought me to live here, he secretly asked his friends for advice, then drew the blueprints himself and renovated the entire room. He turned it into a beautiful pink princess room. He also bought a lot of limited edition dolls and placed them on my bedside. He raised me like a princess. From childhood to adulthood, he always said, as long as it's something Jinue likes and can make Jinue happy, I will do it. I hope our Jinue grows up healthy and happy as a little princess. At that time, his eyes were filled with tender and affectionate love. It made me fall, but he had been standing outside all along. In the room, Liuli leaned against the doorframe. After coldly sweeping his gaze over me, he said, I asked Aunt Chen to clean the guest room on the first floor. You can stay on the first floor for a while. I didn't say anything. I just folded my clothes and put them in the suitcase. Then, when I got up and was about to pick up the doll on the bedside as usual, my hand stopped. Liuli's gaze also moved to the doll. Seeing that I didn't move for a long time, he said, I'll bring the doll down for you later. I took a deep breath, withdrew my gaze, and forced a smile. No need, give it to little aunt. I didn't want Liuli anymore. What were a few dolls? It was true love before, but now it's nothing. Jinue, are you still angry with me? Liuli asked coldly. Why would I be angry with little uncle? I asked. Little uncle also has his own life. Now that you have someone you like and someone you want to protect, I should be happy for you, right? Liuli's eyes darkened, his thin lips opened and closed. But he couldn't make a sound for a long time. When I pulled my suitcase and left, Fanyueshi was not far outside the door. Her gaze towards me held a bit of mockery. Just like in my previous life, she pretended to be a white lotus on the surface, but in fact, she targeted me everywhere and cried at the slightest disagreement. The tears of the weak are always easy to arouse sympathy. Miss Shen, I'm sorry to have inconvenienced you. If I weren't inconvenient, Yuli wouldn't have done this. My hand tightened on the handle of the suitcase. When I wanted to bypass her and leave directly, she suddenly grabbed my wrist. I reflexively shook it off. Fanyueshi's wheelchair rolled uncontrollably down the stairs. Her scream rang out, and the servants in the villa rushed over. Yuli, save me, save me. When Liuli heard this, he ran out of the room in a panic, pushed me aside, and lunged forward to grab the handrail, preventing the wheelchair from rolling further. I stood there in a daze, my throat tightening. It wasn't me. The wheelchair was stuck on the stairs, and several servants blocked the way. Liuli quickly picked Fanyueshi up in his arms and walked up to me. The servants also cooperatively carried the wheelchair over. Yuli, I was so scared. I thought I was going to die. Her eyes were completely red, and the fear in her eyes was real. After Liuli soothed Fanyueshi, he looked at me angrily. Shinjinue, are you crazy? If something really happened to Yueshi, you would be suspected of murder. Do you know that? 4. I bit my lower lip, full of grievances, and my nose was sore. I didn't, it wasn't me. She suddenly grabbed my hand, and I just shook it off. When Fanyueshi heard this, she said with a sobbing voice, it's my fault. Yuli, don't blame Miss Shen. I didn't lock the wheelchair just now, so this happened. Yueshi, you don't need to speak for Jinue anymore, Liuli said coldly. I know what kind of temper she has. Over the years, she has used petty tricks to drive away all the women who got close to me. I couldn't help but laugh, with tears in the corners of my eyes. So little uncle, you don't believe me, right? Are you worthy of my trust? He countered. Yes, I'm not worthy, only Fanyueshi is worthy. You believe whatever she says. After saying that, I pulled my suitcase and wanted to leave, but Liuli asked the servants to stop me. He said, apologize. I looked back at Liuli in disbelief. He repeated, Yueshi has been wronged for no reason. You should apologize. What if I don't? I asked with tears in my eyes. I thought that when I faced such a scene again, I could face it calmly, but I overestimated myself. When all the previous favoritism turned into a sharp sword and stabbed at me. It really hurt so much. You know my methods, Liuli said coldly. He looked at the servants behind me. The servants looked at each other. Just as they were about to step forward and press my shoulders, I sneered self-deprecatingly. I let go of the handle of the suitcase and bent down to apologize to Fanyueshi. I was wrong about what happened today. I shouldn't have shaken off your hand when you grabbed me. I'm sorry for almost making you fall. Fanyueshi was stunned for 2 seconds. And Liuli's expression also became solemn. After I stood up, I looked at Liuli. Little uncle, is it okay now? If not, I can kneel, I said. Liuli's eyes were full of complex emotions, and in the end, he didn't say anything. I pulled my suitcase and went downstairs. As soon as I reached the first floor, Aunt Chin said, Sir is probably in a bad mood today. Miss, don't be angry with Sir. Over the years, we've all seen how much Sir dotes on you. She was speaking for Liuli while trying to take my suitcase. I just smiled. In the past, when Liuli and I quarreled, Aunt Chin would always be the peacemaker. After all these years, Aunt Chin was still the same, but Liuli and I could never go back to the past. Miss, aren't you going to the guest room? She asked in surprise. I shook my head. No, but Sir, please tell little uncle for me that thank you for taking care of me before. I won't bother him anymore in the future, this life. This is enough. I don't want to bear the pain of my previous life again. 5. After Liuli settled Fanyueshi, he called Aunt Chen and asked her to bring up the surveillance footage from the corridor just now. When Aunt Chen came, she hesitated to speak. Actually, he believed Shinjinue. Over the years, although she used petty tricks to keep those women away from him, they were all harmless. She knew where the bottom line was. So when he saw from the surveillance that it was Fanyueshi who took the initiative to provoke Shinjinue first, he didn't react much. He owed Fanyueshi a life. As long as Fanyueshi wasn't too excessive, he could let her do anything. I knew that Miss wouldn't hurt anyone, Aunt Chin said indignantly. Liuli rubbed his forehead. Make something Jinue likes to eat tonight, but Miss has already left. Liuli was immediately stunned. What? Miss asked me to tell you that thank you for taking care of her before. She won't bother you anymore in the future. Aunt Chin said it a bit sarcastically. Liuli didn't blame her. He just let out a tired sigh. Jinue has this kind of temper. She can't bear the slightest bit of grievance. After he asked Aunt Chen to go out first to prepare dinner, he called Shinjinue, but Shinjinue didn't answer. The more he called, the more irritable he became, and finally he threw his phone on the desk. Actually, since half a month ago, starting from the day he originally thought Shinjinue was going to confess to him, he had always been inexplicably irritable, especially when he met Shinjinue's eyes and heard her speaking in that indifferent tone. He always felt as if something was slipping out of his control. Now, it seemed that all the answers were about to surface. 6. It wasn't a surprise to me that Liuli could find me. There were still 7 days until the reporting date. After leaving the villa, I went back to my own home. Liuli was standing outside the courtyard. The cigarette in his 2 fingers glowed brightly and dimmed, and his brows were tightly furrowed. I had just come back from the hospital and saw him, off work. I nodded and didn't say more. Suddenly, there was a deathly silence all around. He was waiting for me to continue, but in fact, I had nothing more to say, until his phone rang. It was Fanyueshi's call. Liuli didn't avoid me and swiped to answer it on the spot. Her delicate sobs came from the other side. Yuli, I had a nightmare. I dreamed about that earthquake. I dreamed that I couldn't save you. Can you come back and stay with me? She was asking tentatively. Liuli subconsciously looked at me. By then, it was already dark. I lowered my eyes to look at the elongated shadow on the ground, with a calm expression. After a long time, I heard him say, I'll be back right away. The call ended. Liuli was about to hold my hand, but I frowned and avoided it. His movement froze. When he looked at me, there was a bit more confusion in his eyes. He probably forgot. In the past, our intimacy was because I regarded him as my beloved little uncle. You have little aunt now. We shouldn't cross the line anymore, I said in a calm tone. Liuli sneered and retracted his hand, pretending to be calm as he put it into his pocket. I know you can't accept my relationship with Yueshi for a while, but it's okay. I can wait until you can accept it before getting engaged to her. For now, just get to know and adapt to each other. I didn't speak and remained silent. In my previous life, ever since Fanyueshi appeared, Liuli and I never had a day of talking properly. We quarreled as soon as we met. He scolded me for being shameless for falling in love with my little uncle. He also said that I couldn't distinguish between family affection and love. He pushed me away step by step, But I was as persistent as a wall, even though I was stabbed all over by all those vicious words. My friends, his friends, all tried to persuade me. Liuli doesn't like you. Why don't you believe it? He likes Fang Yueshi. Every time, I would cry and say no, that Liuli loved me. On my 18th birthday when I became an adult, he thought I was asleep and secretly kissed me. He said he would marry me when I turned 22. I always firmly believed that Liuli was only going to marry Fang Yueshi to repay her kindness. Until that day, the Xiao family wanted to take me away at the bar. I had no contact with the Xiao family and didn't understand why they wanted to arrest me, until the second eldest of the Xiao family said that the old man of the Xiao family had a cerebral infarction. I suddenly understood. Liuli had said that the people from the Xiao family had looked for me. He said that the Xiao family's hands were dirty and told me to keep my distance from them. But I never knew that the Xiao family was looking for me because of the old man of the Xiao family. They sincerely asked me to perform the surgery. I cried and refused to leave. My pale knuckles tightly grabbed the corner of Liuli's clothes, but he coldly said, "Let go." He watched indifferently as I was dragged away and as my fingers were broken one by one. He listened to my heart-rending screams. He didn't even frown. At that moment, I finally confirmed that Liuli didn't love me. 7. What are you thinking about? Liuli's voice sounded, pulling me back from my thoughts. You should have had enough of making a fuss these days. Let's just forget about what happened last time. Jinyue, you're not a child anymore. After saying that, he opened the passenger side door and looked at me. I stood still on the spot, with an ugly smile on my face. I suddenly really wanted to ask the Liuli from my previous life, why could he be so cruel as to watch me suffer, watch me become depressed and die of depression? Even if he didn't love me, I was still the little niece he had raised since childhood. Little uncle, what you said that day was right. Over the years, any woman who appeared around you would be driven away by my petty tricks, so for little aunt's safety, I won't go back. Liuli frowned. Shinjinue, little uncle. You know that I like you, right? I calmly interrupted Liuli's words. His pupils suddenly shrank. Over the years, I had never hidden my love. As long as one wasn't blind, they could tell. I believe Liuli knew it too. Jinyue, he looked at me in a dilemma. Don't worry, little uncle, it won't happen again in the future. I was ignorant before and mistook family affection for love, making a lot of jokes. Now I'm cutting my losses in time. I hope little uncle will forgive me. After saying that, I smiled again. Liuli was like a soulless person, standing there blankly, as if the few words I had just said were very difficult to understand. He opened his lips, about to speak. The phone in his pocket rang again. In the quiet night, it was extremely harsh, one ring after another. He seemed to still be in a daze, but I had already taken 2 steps back and turned to leave. 8. Liuli looked at Shinjinue's gradually blurring back and suddenly felt a bit lost. He habitually took out the cigarette case from his pocket and lit another cigarette. After taking a big puff, he came back to his senses a little. He looked up. The light in the room on the 2nd floor of the villa had already been turned on, and Shinjinue's figure was reflected on the curtain. 3 years ago, when Shinjinue turned 18, on her coming-of-age day, he was drunk and confusedly entered Shinjinue's room, looking at the sleeping little girl in a moment of drunkenness. He crossed the line for the first time and kissed Shinjinue. The little girl seemed to be having a beautiful dream, with a smile on her lips. His family had been friends with the Shin family for generations. He was 7 years older than Shinjinue, from childhood to adulthood. Although he had tacitly allowed Shinjinue's overstepping, he had always reminded her not to confuse family affection with love, and not to mistake dependence for love. Shinjinue didn't love him, and neither did he. He let Shinjinue consider herself his child bride in waiting. One reason was to drive away those clueless young men, and the other was to reduce the romantic scandals around him. One Shinjinue was already enough to give him a headache, but when he saw similar examples around him that didn't end well, he backed down. A relationship that had changed its nature couldn't go back to the starting point. It was better not to start. After he sobered up, he went on a business trip to Hong Kong City the next day, but he didn't expect to encounter an earthquake. He was saved by a girl of the same age as him after surviving the disaster. The little girl was a dancer. Because of him, she lost her legs and her dreams. Guilt and self-blame haunted him. With his financial resources, it wasn't difficult to support another girl. He had been supporting her for 3 years. Except for his assistant. No one knew about this. The reason was simple. He was afraid that Shinjinue would make a fuss and look for trouble with Fanyueshi. This time, he brought Fanyueshi back to Jinbei. One reason was to fulfill his promise to marry her, and the other was that he knew Shinjinue was going to confess to him. He wanted Shinjinue to know when to give up. They shouldn't have crossed the line and had no future, but now, Shinjinue had backed down, but he started to regret it. 9. When Li Yuli returned to the villa, Fanyueshi was sitting in the living room waiting for him. She was dressed thinly. The night in Jinbei was extremely cold. After waiting all night, her hands were already icy cold. Why didn't you go back to your room? Li Yuli asked with a frown. Fanyueshi pursed her lips and lowered her eyes to look at her phone. I called you many times, but you didn't answer. I was very worried about you, Ueshi. Li Yuli walked to the side of the sofa and sat down. His eyes were looking straight at Fanyueshi. Without a trace of warmth, she looked up. Jinue was raised by me. She has been with me all these years. Her temper was spoiled by me. When you decided to follow me 3 years ago, I already told you, I owe you a life. You can ask me to pay it back in any way, but you must never touch Jinue. As he spoke, Fanyueshi's eyes suddenly turned red. She looked at Li Yuli wronged. Yuli, you suspect that I hurt Miss Shin, right? Li Yuli didn't say much. He only left one sentence. For Jinue's safety, there are many surveillance cameras in the villa. Fanyueshi was stunned on the spot and didn't react for a long time. She thought that Li Yuli had clearly stood by her side that day and believed her. She didn't expect that her petty tricks had long been seen through. After Li Yuli went upstairs, he didn't return to his own room. Instead, he went to Shinjinue's previous room, after Fanyueshi moved in. Everything in Shinjinue's room had changed. Those dolls that Shinjinue had once cherished were all put away, and the beautiful and lovely decorations had all been replaced with simple hanging ornaments. Aunt Chen, Li Yuli called Aunt Chen in. Aunt Chen came over quickly. Seeing Li Yuli sitting at the desk, she asked, Sir, what's wrong? He was about to speak when his eyes accidentally fell on the desk calendar in the gap of the desk. He bent down and picked it up. When he saw that the 28th on the desk calendar was circled with a black marker, he was stunned. Aunt Chen was sharp-eyed and also saw it. Isn't this the day of Sir's birthday? I knew that Miss wouldn't really be angry with Sir. Hearing this, Li Yuli's lips inadvertently curved up. His fingertips rubbed the desk calendar. After being quiet for a while, he put the desk calendar back in place. He said in a slightly cheerful tone, Renovate the guest room downstairs according to this layout. Let Ueshi live on the first floor. After this place is tidied up, make it look the same as Jinue's original room. I'll go pick her up in a few days. Aunt Chen smiled and agreed, and Fanyueshi, who was just at the door of the room, suddenly turned deathly pale. 10. There were 5 days left until the reporting date. My handover work was basically completed, but I didn't expect Fanyueshi to come to the hospital specifically to find me. In just a few days, she looked even more like a broken beauty. Do you have something to see me about? I asked her after putting away the medical record in my hand. Fanyueshi was sitting in a wheelchair. The disgust in her eyes was completely exposed without any disguise. She looked at me. Shinjinue. Yuli and I are about to get engaged. Can you stay away from Yuli? Is being a mistress who intervenes in other people's relationships your family's upbringing? My hand that was reaching for the pen paused. I raised my eyelids to look at the woman in front of me, with a cold smile on my lips. Miss Fong, you'd better watch your mouth. Watch my mouth. You should do things cleanly first. Shinjinue, don't think I don't know. Everyone knows that you like Li Yuli. You moved out of the Li family now just to play hard to get. Let me tell you, Li Yuli doesn't like you. He will never like you in this life. He can't like his own little niece. Fanyueshi became more and more excited as she spoke. I couldn't help but laugh scornfully. In my previous life, Fanyueshi and I hardly ever spent time alone. I knew she wasn't a good person. She, like me, would stop at nothing for the person she loved. The calculation in her eyes and the tricks she played were things I had long been tired of in my previous life, but at that time, I forgot. Only when one is about to lose something can one desperately try every means to hold on to it. In my previous life, with just a few words of provocation from her, even though I fought with her until I was black and blue, Li Yuli remained unmoved. And in this life, I haven't done anything, but it made Li Yuli willingly change. These days, Li Yuli would send me messages from time to time. He told me that my room was still mine, exactly the same, nothing had changed, just like when I left. And just like before, He regularly ordered afternoon tea for me without fail. You say, does Li Yuli love me? No. I also knew about the surveillance cameras in the villa. With Li Yuli's character, he wouldn't not check, but he checked and had no reaction. It could only mean that he tacitly approved of Feng Yueshi bullying me. The current change was just because he wasn't used to my leaving, nothing more. After a long silence, I said, I can't like him anymore either. Feng Yueshi was suddenly stunned, her originally excited emotions gradually calmed down. What did you say? I admit that the Li Yuli in the past was very good. Since I was a child, whenever I was wronged, he would stand up for me. He was afraid that I would cry and be unhappy. Besides my parents, he was the best person to me in the world. So it was only natural for me to fall in love with him, but that day, when he saw me crying and still forced me to apologize to you, I no longer liked him. Feng Yueshi seemed a bit dazed, looking at me with red-rimmed eyes. Just because of this, I nodded, just because of this. If the person I like is willing to make me cry and be wronged, then he's not the person worthy of my love. Before Feng Yueshi left that day, she asked me again, no matter what Li Yuli does, you won't like him anymore, right? I replied, yes, even if he died for me, I wouldn't like him anymore. 11. The night before the reporting date, just as I was about to board the plane, Li Yuli sent me a message, I'll come pick you up later. I didn't reply. The other side was still showing typing and there was no follow-up for a long time. Just as I was about to put away my phone, Li Yuli's voice call popped up. His voice was a bit relaxed and cheerful. Jinhua, I'll come pick you up later. There might be some traffic. I didn't answer. He was indeed on the way. The honking from the road came over. At this moment, the boarding announcement sounded again. The breathing on the other end of the line clearly stalled. After a 2-second pause, he asked softly, Jinhua, are you at the airport? Yeah. Why are you at the airport? Are you going on a business trip? Why didn't you tell me? Did you forget that tomorrow is my little uncle? I interrupted Li Yuli in a flat tone. He fell silent. I added, I'm going to follow the path my parents once walked. I don't know when I'll be back. Thank you for taking care of me all these years, little uncle. After being reborn, I thought about taking revenge on Li Yuli, making him feel the pain of having his fingers broken. I also thought about dragging those who hurt me to die together. But my life is so long, why should I be limited to love and hatred? Li Yuli once treated me wholeheartedly, that was true. Let's just call it even. So now, I neither love nor hate him. Why is this so sudden? After a long while, he asked me. I didn't answer. Then he said, Jinhua, if this is because of Yueshi, I can explain. I can make her leave, but you can't leave. His tone was urgent, and the car horn was also very harsh. Jinhua, can you wait for me? Wait for me. I'll be there right away. No, it's too late. I smiled softly and then hung up the phone. After turning off my phone, the haze that had been pressing on my heart finally dissipated. Finally, everything came to an end. 12. Li Yuli looked at the hung-up phone and kept dialing. In the end, he only got the cold mechanical voice. Jinhua had turned off her phone. At this moment, he was more sober than ever. Jinhua really didn't want him anymore. When he realized this fact, he lost control and punched the steering wheel. He violently loosened his tie. His heart ached as if he was suffocating. And even gasping for breath couldn't relieve the pain. Just as he was about to call his assistant to check Jinhua's flight, Feng Yueshi's call came in again. Her voice was full of sobs, and she was begging him not to make her leave. These days, he had thought through a lot of things. Saving a life didn't necessarily mean having to marry the person. He could give Feng Yueshi enough money to ensure that she had a care-free life. He could give her whatever she wanted, except his heart. He had never realized how much space Jinhua occupied in his heart. It was only until now, when Jinhua left, that he understood that his whole heart was almost filled with her, the girl who would cry, laugh, and make a fuss in front of him. He always reminded Jinhua in an elder's tone not to confuse love, but he himself had been in love for more than a decade without even realizing it. At this moment, he couldn't wait to find Jinhua. He wanted to tell her that he loved her very much. He was wrong before, and he wouldn't be like that anymore. Never again. 13. After finding out Jinhua's flight, Li Yuli immediately booked a ticket. Just as he was about to drive to the airport, he collided with a truck. He had a car accident and fell into a coma for a full week. When he woke up, only Fanyueshi was by his side. When Fanyueshi met his gaze, she was uncharacteristically flustered. Li Yuli's eyes suddenly turned as cold as a deep pool. Intimidating, she trembled and said, "Yuli, do you feel unwell anywhere?" Li Yuli didn't speak. He took his phone, unlocked it, and when he saw that the person at the top of his contacts had been out of touch since a week ago, a mocking smile curved his lips. His eyes became inexplicably empty. When he was in a coma, he had a very long dream. He dreamed that after Shinjinue confessed to him, he brought Fanyueshi home and told her that this was her little aunt. He dreamed that Shinjinue quarreled with him again and again, saying that she loved him, and fought wits with Fanyueshi. Then he saw Shinjinue being dragged away from the bar, crying in a sorry state and asking him for help. Her fingers were broken one by one in front of his eyes, and he, because he had promised Fanyueshi that he would never interfere in Shinjinue's affairs again, watched coldly. Clearly, his heart ached so much that he was almost suffocating, but he still pretended not to care. In the dream, Shinjinue's hands were disabled, and she could no longer hold a scalpel. He watched as Shinjinue sat in the hospital ward every day, staring blankly at the sky outside and inexplicably shedding tears. He saw her self-harming again and again, with the scars on her wrists getting deeper and deeper. Clearly, Shinjinue had once said, "I want to be the best doctor in the future." At that time, he had promised Shinjinue that he would always protect her and her golden hands, but in the end, he became the chief culprit. He was afraid to see Shinjinue. He was afraid that Shinjinue would look at him with those cold eyes, and he was afraid that he would no longer see a trace of love in Shinjinue's eyes. He regretted it after Shinjinue's first suicide attempt, but he also knew that they could never go back. Shinjinue died at the age of 25, and he finally didn't marry Fanyueshi. Even when Fanyueshi threatened him with her life, he remained unmoved. He insisted on marrying Shinjinue, even though everyone was scolding him. "How shameless, you forced your little niece to death and still want to marry her." He didn't hesitate. Their wedding was grand, but there were no guests. He held Shinjinue's ashes and completed the wedding. Finally, he also committed suicide at the wedding. 3 months later, I was stunned when Li Yuli found me. I had just come out of the ward and looked up to see him. He had lost a lot of weight. The suit that used to fit him well now couldn't even hold up on his skinny body. His face was deathly pale as he forced a smile. I slightly frowned and kept my distance from him. "Have you been doing well recently?" He greeted me awkwardly. I nodded. I had heard more or less about Li Yuli's affairs. The day I went abroad, he had a car accident. After waking up from the accident, he wanted to send Fanyueshi back to Hong Kong City and broke off the engagement with her. Fanyueshi disagreed and made a big scene with him. Li Yuli still didn't back down. Fanyueshi was so angry that she stole the Li family's business secrets and sold them to 2 or 3 of his competitors. Overnight, he was attacked from both sides. The Li family's stock was in turmoil, the capital chain was broken, and the projects were suspended. It took him 3 months of non-stop work to barely stabilize the situation. Fanyueshi was sued by him and sentenced to 5 years. "When are you planning to go back to Jingbei?" he asked again, his tone cautious. I smiled and said, "I'm not going back." He was taken aback. "Why, you're home, little uncle. You forget that I no longer have a home in Jingbei, after my parents died. The only relative I had was Li Yuli, but later, Li Yuli didn't want me either, so, whether in the previous life or this life, I have no home." Li Yuli wanted to say something else, but I didn't listen anymore. I followed the stretcher that had just come in and rushed into the operating room. 5 hours had passed when I came out. I thought he should have left long ago. Unexpectedly, Li Yuli was still standing there, stubbornly waiting for me. His eyes were filled with complex emotions that were hard to understand. I didn't understand, nor did I know what he wanted to do, until he followed me to the downstairs of the dormitory and asked me, "Did it hurt a lot when your fingers were broken?" Suddenly, I stopped in my tracks, and my 5 fingers subconsciously tightened. He looked at my back, and his voice was faintly nasal. I just said, "Why did my Jinue suddenly stop liking me? I'm sorry, Jinue, I was wrong. I thought I didn't love you." But halfway through his words, he choked up. He covered his eyes, and tears overflowed from between his fingers. His shoulders kept shaking, as if in extreme pain. I was just too scared. I was afraid that if we started, we wouldn't have a good ending. I was afraid that in the end, we wouldn't have any relationship at all. I thought Fanyueshi's appearance would only break your thoughts about me. I didn't expect that it would turn out like this in the end. I'm sorry, you've suffered so much and been brave for so many years." The more he spoke, the more painful he became. He slowly approached me carefully. When he tried to hold my hand, I avoided it and then turned around to look at Liuli. "There's no need to dwell on it, is there? I have a new life, and Liuli will have one in the future. It's just that we won't have any intersection anymore, little uncle. People always have to move forward." After saying that, the last glimmer of light in Liuli's eyes was completely extinguished. "Jinue," he forced a bitter smile. "I'm sorry, goodbye, little uncle." 15. After Shinjinue said the last word, she turned around and left without hesitation. Liuli habitually took out the cigarette case from his pocket. His hands were shaking as he took out a cigarette and tried to light it, but the lighter just wouldn't work. The wind on the border was so strong, the sand blew into his eyes. And it hurt so much that he couldn't stop the tears from flowing. If he could have been brave once, if he could have been reckless for Shinjinue once without considering the consequences, would there not be such an ending? At least he would have had something. If they couldn't reach the end, it would be that they had no fate, but he wasn't even willing to pay the cost of trial and error. After Shinjinue returned to the dormitory, she walked to the balcony. Coincidentally, he looked up. She seemed to feel his gaze. She lowered her head, and when their eyes met, she smiled calmly, took in all the clothes, and then closed the balcony door again. Her movements were smooth, without a trace of reluctance. At this moment, he really realized that he had been completely blacklisted by Shinjinue. She wouldn't be attracted to him anymore. Thinking of this, he vomited a large pool of blood and fainted downstairs of her dormitory. 16. That day, I was wearing a dress he had custom made for me at great expense, and I had booked the most luxurious hotel in Jingbei. The next time I heard news about Liuli was 3 years later. He had lung cancer, at an advanced stage. On his deathbed, he hoped that I could go and see him one last time. I looked at my fully scheduled surgeries and regretfully refused, a friend said. Before he died, Liuli notarized all his property and put it under your name. He was really infatuated with you. Why did you two end up like this? I just smiled. At that time, I also wanted to ask why we ended up like this. Now when I think about it, none of it matters anymore. People have their own fates when they're alive, and the same when they're dead. Story 2. My best friend urged me to confess to my childhood friend at the class reunion, but in reality, the two of them were already together. She just wanted to embarrass me in public. As a result, I ended up confessing to the school bully who had secretly loved me in our past life but never expressed it. School bully. Surprise, the school beauty has been reborn. 1. While waiting for the elevator at the KTV with Shentang, there were boys constantly looking our way. Isn't that the school beauty? Wen Xiao. She looks even prettier in person. She must be a goddess, right? I dream of having a girlfriend like her. I really want to ask for her contact info, but she's too beautiful. I don't dare. Shentang stood next to me with a poker face, but the fist hidden in his sleeve was clenched tightly. Suddenly, I realized that she must have been dissatisfied with me for a long time. It wasn't until she saw a familiar figure that Shentang excitedly called out, "Gu Xian, over here, here I come, Tang Tang." Gu Xian hastened his steps with a smile. As he approached, I discreetly stepped back 2 paces without making a sound. I didn't even glance at him. Gu Xian paused slightly. Normally, without him saying anything, I would have gone up to him. Despite his obvious impatience with me, "Gu Xian, Xiao Xiao has something to say to you tonight." "Right, Xiao Xiao." Shentang nudged me with her elbow, signaling me to speak, but I pushed her hand away instead. "I know Gu Xian." I turned my head to look the other way. 3 boys were walking over. "Sunge also came tonight." "Sunge, your new sports car is really cool. When can I drive it?" Our Sunge just woke up and doesn't want to talk. He didn't plan to come, but he must have received some news. Hee. My gaze then fell on the boy called Sunge. He looked like he had just woken up, his black hair messy over his forehead, one hand casually pocketed, the other idly twirling a car key. Only when our eyes met did his body stiffen momentarily, his eyes slowly lifting. But he quickly avoided my gaze. "Zhu Xuanran, good evening," I initiated. The people around us were somewhat surprised. School bully Zhu Xuanran and school beauty Wen Qiao seemed to have never interacted before. Could it be they knew each other? Zhu Xuanran also paused, his voice hoarse as he slowly said, "Yeah, good evening." The 2 boys beside him exchanged meaningful looks. tilting their heads to the side and snickering secretly. When Xiao Guxian looked at me with that impatient demeanor, as if it were his right. When did you get to know Zhu Xuanran? As if to lecture me as before, but this time I wouldn't comply. I rolled my eyes. What's it to you? Guxian pursed his lips as he looked at me, his eyes deep. Xiao, how can you talk like that? Shentang was the first to come out in defense of Guxian. Guxian is looking out for you. He doesn't want you to associate with that kind of person. Why are you so aggressive? What kind of person? I stared at her. Someone who acts one way to your face but another behind your back, or someone full of lies and deceit. Don't get me wrong, I'm talking about you. Guxian and I were childhood friends, and after becoming best friends with Shentang, I naturally introduced him to her. Despite knowing my feelings for Guxian, she flirted with him behind my back while persuading me to pursue him, even though I felt Guxian's inexplicably cold and annoyed attitude towards me. I never imagined it would be the doing of my so-called best friend. Shentang didn't expect me to defend Zhu Xuanran. She hurriedly tried to pull me aside to remind me not to forget to confess to Guxian, but I swiftly withdrew my arm from her grasp. Shentang, caught off guard by her own excessive force, nearly fell, but Guxian quickly caught her with concern. This time, his gaze was so intense, it was as if he wanted to tear me apart. When Xiao, what are you doing? Apologize to Tang Tang, he demanded, his voice harsh and loud enough to draw the attention of those around us. He glared at me fiercely, advancing step by step. I found myself retreating under his pressure, but in the next second, I backed into a firm chest, a pleasant scent of sandalwood enveloping me. Instinctively, I turned, my forehead bumping against the nose of a young man. He steadied me by the arms, directing me to face Guxian, his palms broad and warm. Zhu Xuanran spoke indifferently, pausing between each word. Such a fierce voice, just like my dog at home. He was standing up for me, too. I remember in my previous life at this time, I was reduced to tears by Guxian, secretly turning away to wipe them. Zhu Xuanran was idly chatting with his buddies not far away, yet his eyes remained fixed on me. His brows were furrowed tightly, his hand pressed against the wall, veins bulging. That night ended with me being humiliated and rejected by Guxian, crying as I ran back to the dorm. The next day, I heard from classmates that Guxian had been severely beaten the night before and was hospitalized. It seems it was this young master who had acted. Brother Sun, don't say that. Your Tibetan Mastiff looks much more spirited than this guy. I can attest to that, and it's worth much more too, said Zhu Xuanran's follower, swaying over and quickly drawing the attention of everyone around. The elevator doors were open, but no one dared to enter. What, looking for a fight? Guxian asked coldly. No, Zhu Xuanran corrected, a fight implies both sides are equal, but I can crush you single-handedly. I believed Zhu Xuanran was not exaggerating. With that in mind, I politely stepped aside. Mr. Zhu, after you. Guxian, come on, we're all classmates here. It's all a misunderstanding. Shentang, frightened, quickly pushed Guxian toward the stairwell. She didn't forget to signal to me. Xiao, don't be temperamental. Remember why we came here tonight. I really wanted to slap her. In my previous life, influenced by Shentang, I confessed to Guxian and was publicly rejected. He then took Shentang's hand and announced their relationship, branding me as the other woman. Overnight, I went from the envied school beauty to a laughingstock and object of ridicule. Later, I developed depression and dropped out of school. During my illness, I often received anonymous encouraging letters. The handwriting was neat, with just a few simple words. Keep going, someone is always here. Each letter came with a blue bellflower. Only after my accidental death did I discover that all those letters and flowers were from Zhu Xuanran, the boy who used to blush every time he saw me, whom I had never noticed before. Thinking of the past life, emotions welled up, causing my shoulders to tremble slightly. Zhu Xuanran seemed to sense my distress, hesitantly calling out my name. When Xiao, his tone sounded ordinary, but I detected an unprecedented tenderness. I snapped back to reality. The elevator is here. I nodded and immediately walked towards the elevator. Be careful. I didn't notice the elevator doors were closing when Zhu Xuanran swiftly moved forward and held the door open for me, while someone exclaimed dramatically nearby. I bumped into the young man's arms, and in that moment, I could hear my heartbeat racing. His hand was still pressed against the door frame. He was facing slightly away from me, his eyebrows slightly furrowed, his nose prominent, and his lips a bright red. I couldn't help but marvel at how someone could remain so fair and have such tender skin despite playing soccer and fighting in all weathers on the playground. Lost in these thoughts, I arrived at the top floor lobby. The classmates who had arrived early had the music blaring, but when they saw Zhu Xuanran's stern face, they quietly turned down the volume. Actually, I don't think Zhu Xuanran was in a bad mood, it's just that he looks quite intimidating even when expressionless. Jojo, come over here. Shen Tang beckoned me to sit with them. Gu Xian was also staring straight at me. In the past, whenever he looked at me, I would definitely go over to him, but times have changed. Now I sit wherever Zhu Xuanran and his guys sit. The two guys seemed quite flattered. What day is it today that the school beauty would sit with us? The guys over there must be green with envy. Zhu Xuanran's mouth twitched, and he held back a smile as he slapped one of the boys on the head. Watch your language. The lady is here. Suddenly, I found this bad student known throughout the school quite endearing. We sat there in groups, and throughout, Shen Tang kept giving me meaningful looks which I pretended not to notice. Finally, she couldn't hold it in any longer. Jojo, didn't you say you had something to tell Gu Xian tonight? She raised her voice an octave, drawing the attention of the other students. Jojo, don't leave with regrets. Speak out everything you've been holding back for years about Gu Xian tonight. I want to know too. The amount of information in her words was quite substantial, sparking gossip among the classmates. I nodded with a smile. Yes, I do have something I want to say in front of everyone tonight. I didn't miss the extremely excited yet envious look in Shen Tang's eyes. Jojo, go ahead. She could hardly contain herself, her voice trembling with excitement. Gu Xian looked at me coldly, his face full of annoyance. In the silent atmosphere, I stood up, walked in front of Zhu Xuanran, and spoke loudly. Zhu Xuanran, I've liked you for a long time. Will you be my boyfriend? The room erupted in amazement. It was as if a depth charge had been dropped, and the place immediately boiled over. Damn, Zhu Xuanran's guy was so shocked he bumped into him. The boy seemed petrified. A flush quickly climbed up his pale face from his ears. He looked at me, his Adam's apple bobbing, and a glint flickered in his dark eyes. Are you serious? He asked in a hoarse voice. Of course, I smiled broadly. What? Shen Tang screamed, no longer bothering to pretend as she rushed up to me. Jojo, how can you confess to Zhu Xuanran? Weren't you going to confess to Gu Xian? Gu Xian. Seeing Zhu Xuanran's gaze dim, I turned around, and saw Gu Xian had also stood up from the couch, his face terribly dark. I chuckled lightly. Why would I confess to him? He's not my type at all. Gu Xian. I had never seen such a look in his eyes before. Astonishment, shock, pain, disbelief. All sorts of complex emotions flashed by as he walked over. What are you doing, Gu Xian? Shen Tang almost instinctively grabbed his hand. I laughed and said, Shen Tang, I should really thank you for persistently encouraging me to like him, but isn't he your boyfriend, right, Gu Xian? I looked at Gu Xian, who responded in his usual nonchalant manner. No, Shen Tang, shocked and anxious, tried to defend herself, but by then, everyone had already made their own judgments, especially the girls, who instantly understood the situation tonight. Our class representative, always straightforward, spoke up directly. It's disgusting how you manipulate your best friend every day. Such people only pretend to be innocent in front of guys. Shen Tang's face flushed red instantly. However, to my surprise, Gu Xian seemed unaffected by it. I suddenly realized he wasn't clueless. He had always silently condoned Shen Tang's bullying and slander towards me. Gu Xian spoke calmly. Wen Xiao, are you joking about yourself just to upset me? His confidence overwhelmed me. I stared at him and said, Gu Xian, you've been trampling over our friendship, expecting me to heal my wounds and come back to you. Where do you get the confidence to keep hurting me? Do you really think I can't live without you? He fell silent. Zhu Xuanran, as if thawed from stone, stepped in front of me. His earlobes were as red as ripe cherries. Whether she's joking or not, she has nothing to do with you now. But I was serious, I said innocently, blinking. The next second, I pulled Zhu Xuanran by the shoulders to face me and kissed him. Zhu Xuanran's eyes widened. The classmates froze, then erupted into cheers. Can I really watch this for free? Help, this perfect match. My goddess, it turns out the only one who matches the school beauty in looks is Zhu Xuanran. While I kissed him, his breathing stopped. A faint scar at the corner of his eye was now hidden in the shadow of his long lashes. Zhu Xuanran looked at me in shock, his long lashes not even blinking. This only piqued my interest further. He had no idea how attractive his eyes were. It was like teasing an innocent young man. I gently caressed his lips and whispered, Zhu Xuanran, why do you blush so easily? Don't you know how to kiss your girlfriend? His face turned even redder. The young man reached out, grasped the back of my head, and deepened the kiss. This was my first kiss in 2 lifetimes, and I never expected to be so forward. It was impulsive. Seeing him, I just wanted to kiss him. Is this what it feels like to actually start a romance? It seems quite sweet. I slowly closed my eyes. That night, I was in a daze until Zhu Xuanran walked me back to my dorm. As for Gu Xian and Shen Tang, I completely ignored them and blocked them both upon my return. A friendship that's too crowded doesn't need deliberate pushing from anyone. I'd rather walk away myself. 5. Just after I got back to the dorm, Shen Tang knocked on my door, insisting that I had misunderstood and wanting to explain. She said she had no special feelings for Gu Xian. Her tone intensified as she asked, Qiao, do you really not like Gu Xian anymore? Didn't you say you liked how handsome and mature he is? Aren't you childhood sweethearts? I understood that Shen Tang couldn't accept that the only thing she thought she had over me was already discarded by me. Her feelings for Gu Xian might not be love, but rather a desire to compete with me. Qiao, can you come out and talk? Shen Tang persisted outside, knocking until my roommate sent her away. My gaze stayed fixed on my phone screen, my lips curving into a smile. Zhu Xuanran had just added me on his contact list tonight, asking groggily, are we really together? I'm very innocent, don't lie to me. I burst out laughing. I found a couple of profile pictures and sent them to him. Zhu Xuanran skillfully made the change. He said, I'm still a bit excited. I said with a smile, don't be too excited, we'll go to class together tomorrow. Good night, my boyfriend. Okay, good night, my girlfriend. It was only later that I heard from his roommate that he was more than just a bit excited. That night, he nearly tore his dorm apart. Running into the hallway and shouting Wen Qiao is my girlfriend, until the early hours of the morning, no one dared to stop him. He only stopped when he lost his voice. Then he took a cold shower and, still unable to contain his excitement, went to the track to run laps. 6. That night, I put down my phone and lay in bed, struggling to fall asleep for a long time. During the period I took a break from school in my previous life, I mostly spent my time taking medication and seeing doctors. I was no longer the envy of others. In the past, I was an excellent student and talented in singing and dancing, recognized as the versatile school beauty and a role model for underclassmen. After I fell from grace, it seemed like everyone had forgotten me, except for him. Zhu Xuanran would never abandon Wen Qiao. Because of him, slowly, no one dared to talk about me behind my back. Even at the new school beauty contest, Zhu Xuanran officially voted by writing my name on the day of the school vote. I was sitting by the window at home, contemplating for the umpteenth time whether to jump. My mother, trembling, ran into my room with her phone and said, Daughter, look, your classmates haven't forgotten you. This male student is holding your name. In the live video, at the vast voting scene, Zhu Xuanran wore a black suit he seldom wore, looking solemn and out of place, walking alone to the front under everyone's gaze. He seemed to disregard everyone present, always indifferent to anything. He solemnly placed the sign with Wen Qiao written on it onto the table. That lone, singular vote shone brighter than any other name. In that moment, the sun splashed around, and the young man looked at the sign in his hand, his lips curling up. Forgive my bluntness, but this school beauty contest is unnecessary. The gap is too wide. The host, caught off guard by this turn of events, hesitated and asked, Zhu, are you sure? Absolutely sure. The young man slightly looked up at the camera. Smiling confidently, when Zhu Xuanran sets his sights on someone, he will choose her over and over again, 1,000 times, 10,000 times, until I die. I stared blankly at the screen, suddenly remembering the person who anonymously wrote letters to encourage me. On one of the letters, there was a drawing of a girl holding a comically looking little dog wearing black clothes and sporting a scar below its eye. On the back, it read, The little dog will never abandon you. Forever fervent and loyal. Remembering the comical appearance of the little dog in the drawing, I couldn't help but laugh. It seemed to be the first time I had laughed since falling ill. My mother, shocked and excited, watched as I finally showed the emotions a normal person should have. She stood there, unsure what to do, and after a while, she came over crying and hugged me. Now that I have been reborn, I will never let down anyone who likes me, nor will I let anyone easily destroy me. 7. The next morning, Zhu Xuanran and I walked hand in hand across the campus, attracting glances from passers-by. Zhu Xuanran's usually stubborn and rebellious bangs hung down naturally today, complementing his dark, large eyes, giving him a strangely well-behaved look. Suddenly, I really wanted to kiss him. Just then, we passed a child eating a candied ha, his large eyes exceptionally bright and adorable. I was instantly captivated. I shyly pointed at him and said to Zhu Xuanran, "Look. I want one like that too. I want to have a child like that with you." I didn't have the courage to say the rest. I figured his following words were choked back. I withdrew my hand, and Gu Xian incredulously touched his cheek that had just been struck by me. "You hit me for him?" "Yes." I stared at him fiercely and smiled. "You insult my boyfriend. And I wonder why I didn't finish you off." Surprise and estrangement filled Gu Xian's eyes. Indeed, I used to be extremely meek. I wouldn't physically fight with anyone, nor even speak harshly. Whenever I cried because of Gu Xian, he would disdainfully say that I was just a greenhouse flower pampered by my family, easily brought to tears over trivial matters, and that I should stick with boys who would pamper and adore me, as he wouldn't. But my tears were more out of sadness, sad because he never stood by my side. "Gu Xian," a scream came, and Shen Tang, who had been hiding somewhere until now, suddenly rushed out, anxiously cradling Gu Xian's face to check. "Does it hurt? Are you badly injured?" "Wen Qiao, you went too far. How could you treat Gu Xian like this?" she prattled on, but Gu Xian was looking straight at me, suddenly interrupting her. "Wen Qiao, you've changed. Thanks for noticing." I pulled out a tissue from my pocket, vigorously wiped my hands clean, and threw it into the trash can. "Gu Xian, let's go." Shen Tang's expression darkened a bit. She pulled on Gu Xian's arm, and forcefully led him away. Gu Xian followed her but still turned his head towards me. He took a few steps and then stopped. His eyes still full of complex emotions, facing their gaze. I turned away expressionlessly. Beneath the camphor tree up ahead stood a slender figure, a young man holding a skewer of candied hawthorn fruit in his hand. He curved his eyes in a smile at me in the soft light of dawn. My eyes suddenly lit up. "Zhu Xuanran," I called out, smiling as I ran towards him. He opened his arms to catch me. I hugged him tightly around his lean waist, secretly thinking how nice it felt to hold him. His arms were long enough to envelop me completely. "Qiao Qiao." Zhu Xuanran's voice fell gently and softly on my head. "You really don't have to stand up for me. I never care about what those people say. I know. But I just won't let anyone speak ill of my boyfriend," I whispered, tightening my embrace, just as countless times before, when I watched Gu Xian and Shen Tang walking away together. This time, I boldly took Zhu Xuanran's hand in front of them, clinging to his arm like a human charm, letting him feed me the candied hawthorn as we walked toward the cafeteria. It's just showing off a bit when you've found someone you like. It comes naturally. During lunch, I overheard a girl at the next table commenting, "Who would have thought Zhu Xuanran could smile, and he looks quite good when he does." Her friend immediately nudged her. "Hey, he's already taken. He and Qiao Qiao, the school beauty, really make a great pair." That morning, since there were no classes in Zhu Xuanran's computer science department, he followed me to mine. It was a small class, not many people, and everyone perked up a bit with Zhu Xuanran's arrival. But what caused even more of a stir was the appearance of another school tough girl, Ding Luoyan, who used to hang out with Zhu Xuanran frequently. She had taken a break from school recently, and everyone thought she wouldn't be appearing at school anytime soon. Ding Luoyan had dyed her hair black and for the first time let down her usually tied-up high ponytail, accentuating her already sharp chin. She was dressed in a chic white outfit today, the top open to reveal a sexy bandeau inside, causing the nearby boys to blush and unable to look directly at her. Suddenly I remembered, Ding Luoyan had also been voted the beauty of the computer science department, but later she preferred to dress like a tomboy and hung out with Zhu Xuanran and the others. Seeing me and Zhu Xuanran walk in, Ding Luoyan bluntly said, "Wow, brother's son is also attending classes." Zhu Xuanran didn't even glance at her and pulled me by the hand to sit in the back. Ding Luoyan laughed, turning her head with a cheeky smile. "Isn't that a bit much? Just because I confessed and you rejected me, does it mean you have to avoid me like this? We could still be friends, just like before. And I could continue to be your sidekick, right?" Zhu Xuanran snorted coldly through his nose. Silently pulling out a tissue to wipe the desk, Ding Luoyan kept talking. This time her gaze shifted to me. "Brother son, I just realized you like this type. But how am I any different now? why can't you look at me even once? Finally, Zhu Xuanran couldn't hold back any longer. He gritted his teeth and threatened, Ding Luoyan, I don't want to be harsh to girls, but you better behave yourself, alright. Ding Luoyan giggled and then turned to flip through a comic book on the table. Love and indifference are indeed very clear. If I'm not mistaken, the comic book Ding Luoyan was looking at was of Zhu Xuanran's favorite style. Meanwhile, Zhu Xuanran was frowning at my calculus textbook, putting on a serious face as if pondering the problems. Do you know how to solve this problem? I teasingly leaned over to him. Zhu Xuanran glanced at me, his cheeks immediately turning red. He nodded and then shook his head. Then I'll explain it to you. I winked at him, and his blush deepened. He's really cute. I barely held back my laughter as I took a pen to demonstrate the problem for him. When I finished explaining and looked up, I found him hurriedly averting his eyes. Zhu Xuanran, I said, pretending to be stern, were you looking at your textbook just now, or were you looking at me? He glanced at me and then cast his eyes down like a guilty puppy. Looking at you, Zhu Xuanran, if you keep staring at me like that, the teacher is going to scold you. He blinked nonchalantly and said, I'd still choose to look at you. That image flashed through my mind again, a girl walking ahead, leading a puppy, which gazed continuously at her back. Zhu Xuanran, this time, I won't let you down again. As the class ended, Zhu Xuanran was called out by a boy who said he needed to talk. As soon as he left, Ding Luoyan came over and sat beside me. Without saying a word, she propped her head up and scrutinized me. I closed my textbook without changing my expression. You've been watching me during class, haven't you had enough? The girl grinned and said, Wen Xiao, he seems to really like you, although everyone says you're the school beauty. I'm still surprised he chose you. It's not that you're not good enough, but in my eyes, Zhu Xuanran is the best. I looked into her eyes. They were beautiful phoenix eyes, devoid of jealousy or resentment, but filled with genuine admiration. It was like a telepathic connection between girls. I could feel she bore no malice towards me. I nodded. I understand how you feel, and I'll take good care of him. Ding Luoyan picked up a strand of my hair and chuckled. Did you know, when I first met him, I had the same hairstyle as you, and I liked wearing my hair down too. The first time I met Xuanran, I was cornered by a group of thugs. And no one passing by stopped to help me, except for him. He came charging on his motorcycle and stood in front of me. Speaking of Zhu Xuanran, a spark of light appeared in Ding Luoyan's eyes, and her smile grew wider. I still remember his stern profile under the night sky, arrogant and rebellious. His eyes were wild yet incredibly clear, fatally attractive to anyone. He looked at those thugs and calmly told me to get on his bike. That was the first time I rode his motorcycle. Later, I decided to follow him everywhere, so I tied up my hair and stuck by him like a brother. At first, he didn't want me to follow him, but after I desperately fought alongside him a few times, making some enemies, he had no choice but to let me. Ding Luoyan's smile turned bittersweet. I thought as long as I could stay by his side, I would have a chance, but I was wrong. Wen Xiao, you are the first person I have ever lost to. Your presence has utterly defeated me. I looked at Ding Luoyan sympathetically, placing my hand on her shoulder, about to offer some comfort, when Shintang suddenly burst in. She must have heard many rumors around the school by now, and she looked visibly distressed. Qiao Qiao, I was indeed with Gu Xian before. It was wrong of me not to tell you, but it was all his idea. I agreed out of helplessness. Ding Luoyan raised her eyebrows with a peculiar expression. Shintang continued, but now I've broken up with him. Qiao Qiao, you will always be my best friend. To hell with men. She forcefully grabbed my hand, her eyes brimming with tears. Can we go back to how things used to be? Can we be inseparable best friends again? So, what do you want? I said with a smile. Shintang thought I was as naive as before, her voice trembling with a sob. I knew you wouldn't abandon me. You're the best. Did that Zhu Xuanran bully you? If he dares to make you angry, I'll stand up for you. Stop, stop, stop. Ding Luoyan, sitting with one leg over the other, said, why can't I bear to listen to this anymore? Big sister, they are a couple in a good relationship. Why would you meddle in their affairs? Who do you think you are? Ding Luoyan didn't know Shintang, but Shintang had heard of Ding Luoyan's reputation and didn't dare provoke this well-known tough woman. Instinctively, she stepped back and whispered, I was just speaking on behalf of Qiao Qiao. From her perspective, if you don't like it, that's fine. But she didn't say anything. I slowly started to speak. Luoyan is right. Shintang, who do you think you are? I said each word clearly. If I remember correctly, When I was still on good terms with Gu Xian, you were the one who insisted every day that you wouldn't let me be bullied and wanted to confront him on my behalf, but as things turned out, you two ended up together, and I became an outsider. Now, are you trying to do the same thing with Zhu Xuanran? Ding Luoyan suddenly realized and concluded, isn't this just the legendary behavior of a green TB*TCH, stealing your best friend's man? Looks like the big sister here has figured it out. Shen Tang had faced numerous setbacks from last night until today, and now even Ding Luoyan, a stranger, could pinpoint her true nature. She stomped her foot in frustration and ran out of the classroom. I turned back and exchanged a look with Ding Luoyan, and surprisingly, we both burst out laughing at the same time. Maybe we can be friends, I said. Ding Luoyan smirked. Forget it, after all, you're my rival in love. I don't want to see either of you again. Today was my last attempt for myself. Alright, I lost, I accept it. When Zhu Xuanran returned that day, Ding Luoyan had already left the classroom. The comic books she had been flipping through all morning were now quietly lying in the trash can. The page was turned to the first one. With the clumsy but clear handwriting, Zhu Xuanran, can you please like Ding Luoyan, 13. From then on, every day felt like I was soaking in a jar of honey. Zhu Xuanran pampered me to the skies, listened to everything I said, and like bewitched, brought me lots of gifts every day, as if wanting to give me everything he considered good. His previously arrogant and domineering demeanor seemed to vanish overnight. Not only did his hairstyle and clothes look like a good student, but he also started smiling more, proudly showing off to his brothers that he had a girlfriend, and he became much more talkative. Those who knew him before could hardly recognize him now, but later, I realized that he hadn't changed his impulsive and adventurous nature. He had just toned down his sharp edges for me. Zhu Xuanran even once gave me the keys to his beloved sports car, which I adamantly refused, because I had already received the best gift he could give me. That was the letters he wrote to me when I was most lonely and helpless, and those beautiful yet lonely blue balloon flowers. In stark contrast were Gu Xian and Shen Tang. Shen Tang had a bad reputation, almost enjoying the treatment I had endured in her previous life, and Gu Xian had become significantly more silent, exuding a repressed aura. Many times, when Zhu Xuanran and I went out hand in hand, we would just happen to run into him perfectly placed, although we didn't greet each other. As we passed by, I could always strongly feel a very intense gaze on me. 14. Time swiftly moved to Christmas Eve, and in my past life, I died on that day. 15. This year's Christmas Eve came with a thick blanket of snow, the moonlight bright, and the ground pure white. My lips were chapped for some reason, and I was so upset that I ignored him for half the day, only agreeing to go out with him in the evening. Zhu Xuanran, learning from TikTok, prepared a big Christmas gift box for me, which contained apples and bright red banknotes. I was amazed at his generosity, yet helpless at his straightforward way of expressing his love. The pedestrian street was bustling, with many couples. The girls' faces were all rosy, their hands tucked into the pockets of the boys holding them. Only the straightforward Zhu Xuanran, with his zipper undone as if he wasn't cold, he took my hand and slipped it into his embrace. Aren't you cold? I asked him. Zhu Xuanran chuckled foolishly and said, not cold at all. I actually feel quite warm. Lately, I had almost forgotten that my boyfriend was once the formidable school tyrant. These days, he always looked blissfully silly, feeding stray cats and dogs, and becoming patient with everything. As we strolled along the street, a commotion suddenly erupted from the crowd. For some reason, the moment I heard the noise, my heart skipped a beat, a bone-deep fear enveloped me, and I shook my head vigorously to clear it. It turned out to be a drunk man who had fallen onto a girl. The girl's boyfriend was furious and wanted to confront him, but the drunk man's friend quickly intervened. The girl loudly claimed it was a misunderstanding and hurriedly pulled her boyfriend away. Damn, idiots. The drunken man stood up, brushed off his hands, and spoke clearly despite his intoxication. Forget it, there are plenty of girls like her around. Come on, let's go to that bar I told you about and drive there. Zhu Xuanran stopped in his tracks and looked over. Darkness filled his eyes, and fine red veins slowly crept across his eyeballs. Chow chow, wait here, I'm going to buy you some chocolate milk tea, he instructed me earnestly. There's a police station nearby, just sit here and wait for me. Don't go anywhere. Okay, I'll be back soon. I felt something was off but agreed nonetheless. After Zhu Xuanran left, I saw the person I disliked the most. Gu Xian, who usually wore white or light blue shirts, was dressed in black tonight. He stood a few steps away, silently watching me, but I had promised Zhu Xuanran to wait there for him, so I wouldn't leave easily. I shifted my position, sitting with my legs boldly crossed. According to Gu Xian, I could never like a girl who is both unruly and sharp. How ridiculous. Once, because Gu Xian liked light blue shirts, I bought many blue skirts. Ding Luoyan liked Zhu Xuanran whether his hair was tied up or let down. Zhu Xuanran had transformed himself into a well-behaved student for me. Now, Gu Xian wore black, a color he once hated, all for me. Everyone changes for the one they like, but little do they know, love itself is an existence that breaks all norms. There will always be someone whose arrival shatters all your expectations and predictions. They may not be perfect, but the moment they appear, a voice in your heart will say, "It's them." Xiao Xiao, can't we go back to how things were before? Gu Xian suddenly spoke. Before Shintang was in the picture, I remember in junior and senior high school, Gu Xian used to give me rides to and from school on his bicycle. He was a man of few words, listening as I chattered away, unmoving even at the funniest moments. Perhaps only the wind knew if he laughed then, because I was always popular at school. He said he hated the feeling of being talked about when walking with me, so we made a pact not to act like we knew each other on campus, and after Shintang came into the picture, he would bring only one milk tea when he met up with me and Shintang waiting for him. It was strawberry flavored, Shintang's favorite, but he forgot, I also loved milk tea. My favorite being chocolate flavored. Gu Xian, what do you think? I said somberly. Is there a need to go back to how things were? Shintang only has eyes for you. She's faking it, I can tell. Gu Xian finally admitted. I couldn't help but scoff. Amusing yourself by letting her torment me, are you? A flicker passed through Gu Xian's eyes. Wen Xiao, I just wanted you to tone down your brilliance a bit. You're so dazzling that I always feel you won't stay by my side forever. I'm sorry. This was the first time in my life I heard Gu Xian apologize to anyone. Unfortunately, this apology was too late to mean anything. I think we have nothing left to say. Some people admire roses for their beauty, while others fear getting hurt by their thorns and choose to do whatever it takes to make them wither. Such selfish people do not deserve my forgiveness. Suddenly, a frantic figure ran towards us. Ding Luoyan's face was pale, and she was on the verge of tears. It's bad, Wen Xiao. Zhu Xuanran has started fighting with someone. There are many of them and they've been drinking. Call the police quickly. When we arrived at the scene, I saw fragments scattered all over the alley and faint traces of blood. People were strewn about in disarray, and my heart shattered. Nobody go over there. My voice was low. I had never been so calm yet so frantic. Gu Xian and Ding Luoyan were startled by my expression. Gu Xian still wanted to move forward but was sternly stopped by Ding Luoyan. Wen Xiao, you go. If anything feels wrong, call us immediately. The police and ambulance are on their way. I nodded. I knew that at this moment, Zhu Xuanran only wanted to see me. I walked slowly forward. The ground was littered with many people, all bearing severe marks of being beaten with clubs. I couldn't imagine my boyfriend, alone and unsupported, facing this mob, but he still won. He wasn't unharmed. He just crazily held on until the end. Shintang was also there, kneeling on the ground, trembling all over and babbling something. Yes, the drunk man who was harassing the girl earlier was bothering Shintang. The boy with her at the time was Gu Xian. Gu Xian couldn't let go of Shintang's docile charm, but he also couldn't let go of me, his childhood sweetheart. How could I not be disgusted by such a man? I just couldn't stand how Gu Xian left me again to go to her. I walked towards a less crowded area in a fit of pique, and just by the parking lot entrance, I encountered that group. I was so scared. I said that our school's beauty, Wen Xiao, was very attractive. If they dared, they should go find her. Shintang was shaking violently, kneeling on the ground and stuttering, until she finally passed out. Zhu Xuanran, who had been struggling to keep upright on his knees, let go of the wooden stick in his hand and also collapsed. But in the moment he fell, I caught him. Xiao Xiao. I saw liquid falling onto his shoulder. I realized then, I was crying. Why cry, Xiao Xiao? The boy's face was somewhat pale, but he still smiled at me happily. Look, I took them all down by myself, like a child waiting to be praised. Zhu Xuanran said weakly. Xiao Xiao, I had a very real dream. In the dream, that bald drunk drove into you, and I almost went mad. I remember his face very clearly, so I couldn't help but follow them. When I heard Shintang leading them to you, everything I saw in the dream suddenly flooded my mind. I couldn't control my emotions, and just, fool. I suddenly laughed through my tears. Whether in my past life or this one, he always goes all out to stand up for me. that him, determined to protect me and not allow anyone to harm me, has never changed. Zhu Xuanran rested his head on my shoulder, and I heard him whisper softly, Qiao Qiao, unlike in the dream, I can finally protect you by your side. I fought back the sting in my eyes and reached out to gently trace the contours of his face. I whispered softly, little dog, I've come to take you home. The last letter he sent me in a past life contained a lengthy message. The language of Bellflower speaks of eternal love and hopeless love. My love for you is eternal, yet I know I may never see you turn back. You surely don't know a boy named Zhu Xuanran, nor would you know that blue was the color you wore when I first saw you. That day, you were wearing a fairy-like long blue dress, carrying a backpack, walking under the shade of trees on a small path. The moment I saw you, my whole world became clear and bright. I had never seen such a beautiful girl before. Pointing at you, I told my brother, is that the school belle Wen Xiao? I must win her over. Ironically, I later realized I was just a coward. I only dared to watch you from a distance, never brave enough to approach. The countless times we crossed paths were actually moments I had deliberately planned, building up courage over and over again. At some point, I suddenly realized that such a dazzling girl belonged to the world, not to Zhu Xuanran. That day, I suddenly felt an overwhelming need to see him. For the first time, I ran out of the house with my weak body, and in my haste, I was struck by a car while crossing the street and died on the spot. Fortunately, from this misfortune, I was reborn. Wen Qiao does not belong to this world. Wen Qiao belongs only to Zhu Xuanran, my most beloved little dog. Please believe that this time, I will never let go of your hand.